feel immense pleasure to welcome you all at the day 2, and hope we have the same enthusiasm, more the energy, more the zeal to learn, to share, and aim at excellence in academics. Great, great. I see Anupriya Agrawal from Jain Happy School. Wonderful, ma'am. Very good afternoon to each and everyone who is present here. Good afternoon, Salman Qureshi, sir. I will request each one to type their institution name as well as their name so that we know who all are there with us. Good afternoon, Ekta from Bangalore. It feels immense pleasure to welcome you all today. Good afternoon, Rajni Gandhi from Manav Stali School. Mukta, Eri, ma'am, Neha Khanna, ma'am from Manav Stali School. Wonderful, wonderful to see you all. I see many of the participants and I see many writing in the chat. I see Uma Balan ma'am joining us. Manika Kochur ma'am. Wonderful. In fact, it's amazing, amazing to see you all. Rima Gogia ma'am. Priya Arora ma'am. KK Sharma sir from Jain Happy School, Delhi. Great, great to have people from all across nation coming together for education revolution. Sushma ma'am from Jain Happy School, Delhi. Parul Mittal from Delhi. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, each and everyone. All the esteemed educators, you are in fact the torch bearers. You are in fact the nation builders. And we expect a lot from you. Well, I'll say, many are joining in, but as the time says, we'll be starting over. Wonderful. So we have people joining from universities, schools, coaching institute of Delhi and Gujarat, Bangalore, Punjab. Wonderful. Indeed a pleasure to host you all. And so we begin. Let's mark opening to the day 2 of MENTORx TTP FDP program. On the auspicious occasion of Ganesh Chaturthi, I feel proud as we begin the day 2 of our signature program, TTP FDP, for esteemed educationists, teachers, and each and everyone, all the stakeholders who are contributing to the child's growth in today's challenging times. We at MENTORx Global welcome all our board, esteemed faculty of today, our participants for immense knowledge, sharing and learning with focus to National Education Policy 2020. I, Dr. Nancy Juneja, founder RevUp, co-founder MENTORx Global, welcome you all wholeheartedly as we continue to exchange learning from day 2. I'll say that our esteemed faculty of day 1, Dr. Y.P. Chawla and Dr. Gurmeet Kaur Gill, contributed massively and cleared many of the doubts of the educators. We learned that degree of coordination and integrated learning is the need of the hour, which is needed between all the stakeholders of child growth, be it teachers, parents, management. And the teachers today are moving from just being teachers to the digital masiha also, from not just being teachers to being more aware also. So this is an era, a next generation learning, where the children are moving from cramming to creativity. And when we are learning how to be more practical approach, how to have a global exposure, and how to cope up with the classroom to classroom shift that we are facing today. So I'll say this is the time to bring the world-class learning to schools. This is the time, to bring the world-class learnings to universities. And with the kind of magnitude of number of schools, the number of universities we have today, we can say that indeed, the students are the nation builders, and it is high time we invest in ourselves, in educators first. Only then we can, guide upon our students. while focusing on the quality and empowerment in education since almost 2 decades in industry now, I'll say that this is the time when we move towards quality of creating a mindful institution, because today mindful institution is a happy institution, be it a school or a university. Today we need an educator, we need all of you who lead as a team, not just in normal times but even in challenging times. So let's move forward and see for today's discussion. Let's see how technology and education can integrate with each other. Let's see how research has shown that SEL skills, STEM skills are working in schools and producing overall development for the children. And we at MentorX continually strive to provide the best to you, best of this team faculty for continuous growth, overall holistic growth of the students. So before we announce and welcome our esteemed faculty, I would love to hear the opening note from our founding president of MentorX, Dr. Jindal. Over to you, sir.
Hello. Good evening. A very warm good evening in India, and greetings of the day in the respective parts of the globe, because we have people who have joined us internationally. Wow, it's a wonderful evening today, wonderful day, and what a clan, what it's teacher training and faculty development program. So it's happening because these teachers, you are the ones who build a nation, who build the world, who build the people, the future. You hold the future of patients, and right from the grassroots level. And you are the ones who know how to shape it. And we are so glad that in the times we are, as we are getting towards new norm cause of the times we are living in, and then the new education policy, bringing in flipped learning, classroom learning, blended learning, digital learning. And you all are so open to learn, to update, to brush your skills, whereby I believe learning is a continuous process. We learn to learn, continuously learn, and these pandemic times has taught us unlearn to learn. So glad to see that people from various different countries have also joined us, and I would really like to make a special mention of Mrs. Vimi Gura. She's from the Ministry of Mauritius, and she's an eminent part of MentorX. She's here with us, with all the other eminent teachers, principals, lecturers, professors, academicians, educationists from all the schools, colleges, universities across India with us. And it's on FB Live as well. People who are not able to log in, they are on FB right now with us. So till the time being our next speaker joins in, any one of you who would like to maybe make it more interactive with me, would like to talk to me, can raise their hand, and we would love to unmute you and speak with you. Any of you, if you have any query, you want to exchange any thought process. Otherwise, I'm open to share the vision and mission of MentorX with you. But certain times, wonderful people like you, they feel like talking, exchanging pleasantries, making it more interactive. Rajni Gandhi ma'am is wishing us good afternoon. Thank you, Rajni Gandhi ma'am from Manav Sthali School. Wow, wonderful. So great to see wonderful people. Ekta ma'am is here from Bangalore. And wow, I can see so many wonderful names. Mukta Airi ma'am, Neha Khanna ma'am from Manav Sthali, again, New Delhi. Manika Kochar ma'am from GD Goenka, Lucknow. Wow, see the diversity here. Reema Gogia ma'am, PGT Mathematics. Wow. And Salman Qureshi sir with us, Aga Khan School, Mundra, Gujarat. See how much diversity we have. I'm talking about Mauritius, Morocco, Canada, UK, and then we have people from various parts of India as well. And yes, our wonderful esteemed speaker, Mr. Rajiv Badhuria is here. Wow, let's welcome him with a huge applause. And he's a wonderful human being, along with possesses decades of expertise. Namaste, Rajiv Badhuria ji, if you can kindly unmute Mute yourself and come on the camera. Would love to see you.
Yeah. Hello. Hi. How are you, everybody? Good afternoon.
Namaste, Rajiv Bhaduria sir, and very good afternoon to you. It's always a privilege and a pleasure to connect with you. I still remember we were the co-speakers at WASME, World Association of Small Media.
Hello. Let me reconnect. I think there is some problem. I think let me reconnect you.
Decades, the knowledge.
Yeah, let me reconnect.
Surely, Rajiv sir. We have Uma Balan ma'am with us, another wonderful woman, tons of knowledge, tons of expertise. And when she speaks, people, people are all here and people love to hear her. I can see Parul Mittal ma'am, and we have Pooja Mehendirata ma'am, and we have Ramandeep ma'am. She is the chairperson of International Association of School Librarianship. Wow, welcome ma'am. And I can see Shushma PRT from GHS. So guys, and all the eminent teacher, all our wonderful client, turn on your cameras, be here. Would love to see you. Would love to call out your names. Would love to know you better. And yes, see, when I said turn on your cameras, Ekta ma'am is here with wonderful smiles and all the happy aura. I can see Reema Gogia ma'am as well now. Wow. Wow. See, that's the power you have. As soon as you turn on cameras, the more of the happy aura is coming in, more of the positive vibes. So don't think you are here to take something. You can give also. You can give your happy aura. You can give your bliss. You can spread. I can see Ananda ma'am, Anupriya Agarwal ma'am, Ranju ma'am from BBM School Ludhiana. Wow. All wonderful people, all and her gray hairs. Her smile itself says that the bliss, the tons of the experience of decades behind her that she's carrying, and how beautifully she's smiling. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Ananda, ma'am, for being with us. Mukta Airi, ma'am. Wow, great. All wonderful people here. So all are spreading smiles. So in the meanwhile, the speaker joins us. What we're doing here at MENTORx is we are educating, empowering, elevating. Educating as in you all are educating, but somewhere somehow you are tied up with the curriculum of your schools, respective universities, respective boards. So then where MENTORx comes in, trying to get around where you are tied up, where whatever today's generation needs, that extra edge, we are trying to deliver that. And we believe women are already empowered. They don't need any kind of empowerment. They just need a bit of a spark to put them in the direction of their dreams. So we have Rajiv sir with us. Wow. Welcome back, sir.
Hi, thank you. I think there was some problem because I think the problem came that every time you disconnect, you have to reconnect and the host doesn't let you in.
No, you go into the waiting room, sir. You go into the waiting room. Then from the waiting room, you come down into the main conference room. So wonderful. So wonderful to see you. And we are blessed and we are privileged. No, trust me, we are privileged from the core of my heart that you are with us, and honor is all ours to host you today. And for the next bit, I would love to have Dr. Nancy Juneja, co-founder of MENTORx and the global chairperson of MENTORx Women, to, without much ado, to take forward the ceremony and open the day 2 on a wonderful note with Rajiv Bhaduria, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jindal. Indeed, a pleasure to welcome Rajiv sir here at MENTORx TTP program. And I feel the vision and mission of MENTORx is aligned with each one here. We are here to educate, empower, and elevate masses together. And you'll be pleased to know that the faculty chosen up for this program is something that, you know, it's not us who chosen them, it's them who chosen to be contribute to the masses, you know, at large. So that is the beauty of being an educator, that wherever you are, you want to spread your knowledge. And during these challenging times, this is the time when we all have got, you know, a golden chance again to revamp ourselves, re-strategize ourselves, all the pedagogies, all the teaching practices we ever had, and infuse enthusiasm so that our learners find interest in the new online teaching. And we all are here to learn together. So Rajiv ji, I would love to tell you that day one set the mark right with our faculty, and we discussed a lot of things. We discussed how, to increase the teacher's impact. We discussed how to explore the next generation learning, how to engage the students and get the best out of them. We discussed upon the, exam strategies, the assessment modules to achieve the overall development of the students through e-learning. And we discussed how technology can be an integral part of the academic in the whole teaching learning process. And so today we move ahead to understand the concept of the paradigm shift and, thinking out of box, seeing the practical inside being an educator. And we look forward wholeheartedly to your session. I would love to introduce, and I feel honored to introduce Mr. Rajiv Bhaduria here. And please be with me as I read through his profile. Such an inspiration you get by reading him that we need to be somewhere where he is now. A very special aspect of Rajiv sir's competence is in the area of industry interface. Currently, in addition to his being responsible for being the group HR, he is heading the education vertical of the group. Given his keen interest and his passion in the field of thought leadership in aligned to academia, to the changing need of meeting the demands of turbulent technology, market scenario in the post-Lehman world. He is the governing council of the following university like O.P. Jindal Global University, Sonipat, O.P. Jindal University, Rajgarh. In addition to the above, he's with his given keen interest and the passion, competence in promoting education, particularly in the field of realigning management education. In the current system, he's been the governing counseling member in NTPC School of Business, Noida, Delhi. Besides his recognition as a contributor in the field of management of education, he's currently also an independent director in Indian Iron and Steel Sector Skill Council. He is definitely to bridge the gap between academia and industry. He's the right channel who's actively engaged in implementing the bridge training and the concept to enhance the capability of nearly 10,000 workforce of JSPL beside ending with mayor certification itself. For capturing the advantage of the demographic dividend available to us. He is the regular speaker on varied platforms, national and global, CII, FICCI, IMA, management schools like ISB, IIMs, Federation of World Academia, human resource management and leadership, particularly his concepts of leadership of post-Lehman world, given the technological disruption, is definitely something to look forward to. Industries 4.0 and its implicant to human resource management, the WICA word, the implications for managing human resource through creative design thinking, based initiative, mindfulness, BRR, CSR, corporate governance, and sustainable development. In brief, Rajiv sir is a rare blend of the industry experience and a great leader for the academic world, particularly in alignment with the new age workforce. Wow, I feel like a round of applause from all our team. I would request you all to unmute yourself once and give a round of applause to our esteemed faculty, Mr. Rajiv Bhaduria, as we open the session, the day 2, to understand the paradigm shift in education through him, through his experience, vast experience. Thank you so much, sir. We at MENTORx welcome you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, and Nancy. Well, I think somebody will have to run the PPT, if possible, from your end. Will that be possible?
Sure, sir. You can start and we run the PPT.
Yeah. So what I'll do is that a very good afternoon to all of you. In fact, and this technology lets you down at the last minute, because somehow or the other we are living in a technological age of the 4th industrial revolution, but it lets you down most of the time. Anyways, what's important today is that why do we do this whole context of paradigm shift? But before we get into this, there is a reason why we chose this particular topic of explaining to all of you the context of paradigm shift and the meaning. But before that, let's go back to the context of the current day technological revolution. And that sets the context. And I've seen that yesterday, you've been through some beautiful sessions about what is the new age technology, what are the changes taking place in the new educational scenario created by Education 4.0, which talks about a whole paradigm shift in the way we have looked at education from the point of view of the structure, the process, and the way we deal with students, the way it actually creates meaning in our life. And that is the context in which we need to understand that this is the age of possibilities. We were earlier living in the age of probability, where we thought that things were going on an even keel and the world was more predictable. There were only knowns which would happen, and we would call the unknowns et ceteris paribus, and we kind of, would picturize our future. We would predict the future based on what we have known so far, the trends that have happened to us. But just let's go back now to understand the today's context where unknowns are occurring more. And in the unknown scenario, the theory of probability doesn't work. And when the theory of probability doesn't work, there's a world of possibility. Anything is possible. So what is required for you to capture the essence of predicting the world today, or making sense of it, or meaning out of whatever is happening around, the most important way is to look at anything being possible, agile enough, adaptable, upgradable, modifiable, ready to be nimble-footed into getting comfortable with ambiguity, which was not the case earlier. And therefore, we move to the world of possibility, where anything is possible, but by implication, there's nothing called impossible. Now, that's the good news. So to set this context as to what is happening before there's a PPT in which I thought I'll take you through, but there is some problem of connectivity from my end here, and therefore I'm not able to share my screen. So I'll request somebody to take it through. But before, let me build the context while it's being done. See, we go back to the year 1992, when globalization was the business driver and Y2K bug was the technology driver. Now, Y2K bug was overcome, and with it being overcome, there was an overkill of technology that was created after 2000. And between 2000 and 2007, this overkill of technology created what is called the Web 3.0, 4.0 applications by 2007, from the earlier known world of internet, which was a one-way communication by 2000. There were the ERPs, which we called PeopleSoft, JD Edwards, so on and so forth. MySAP also was there at that point of time. It all converted itself into what is called the performance platforms. And these performance platforms are nothing but platforms which have business knowledge, processes, and solutions, all fused into one on real-time basis. And this is what was discussed even yesterday, when the two presenters showed to you that this great technology by 2007 had created the Facebook, the Twitter, the iPhone. And therefore, the start of this whole technological turbulent environment started from 2007 itself. And 2008, of course, the Lehman crisis occurred. And it occurred because of the fact that we were not able to kind of, visualize the fact that the world has changed. It will not be northwards anymore. Prime and subprime was known to everybody. And Lehman crisis occurred not because people did not know the difference between prime and subprime, but because they thought that things are never going to change and they'll always be pointing northwards. It's okay, Nancy, even if it's not uploaded, I can take it without the PPT also. But of course, just see to it that it's uploaded. It'll help people understand better. And then I can kind of, I don't need a PPT otherwise. Thank you. So now comes 2007, and therefore what has happened?
Sorry to interrupt, sir. We're just doing, you can continue. It'll take another minute.
Thank you. So what happened actually was that there was a beautiful context in which linearity died its death. Now, what is linearity? The trend setting, because it was, we would analyze the trend and then move forward for predicting the future. But now linearity died its death. So the world becomes non-linear. As I said, from the world of probability, you move to the world of possibility. So here, linearity dying its death, paradigm shift. You mean to think that anything can happen in any direction. It need not be upwards, it could be downwards, it could be crosswards, it could be even backwards. So this is the world of ambiguity that we are faced with in this technological age. And this is called the start of the fourth industrial revolution. Many call it the third industrial also. The idea is that it talks about convergence of technologies. It talks about convergence of the cyberspace, the physical space, and the biospace. And this whole context of the way the communication is set up, the way our energy resources are used and utilized, and then ultimately the way our mobility takes place shapes the civilization of any given point of time. And this is the context of the fourth industrial revolution, that we have a cyberspace which is absolutely tumultuous. It is disruptive. We have blockchains, we have 3D printing, we have AI, ML, we have what is called the Internet of Things, and which are connecting links or sensors between two machines and two people, two things. And it comes up that when you have people, processes, things, and big data put together, we call what is called Internet of Everything. So everything is connected to everybody, everywhere, every time. And it's just a matter of, yes, you can show this presentation itself. So this was the context in which the whole idea about the technological change takes place, and the whole world has to be understood very, very differently. Now, we cannot say that things have happened in the past and they'll continue to happen essentially in that sphere, in that context. And here is the start of the presentation. Let's see before we get into the modalities. The future has arrived. So I think I'll give a thumbs up and you can change the slide. We are talking of a future that has already arrived. So this is very strange. So next. This is the start of the fourth industrial revolution. Now, fourth industrial revolution is all about bringing scalable adaptability. It's like what I said, convergence of the cyberspace, the physical space, and the biospace. Here, it is about empowering people, because the trend will not help you anymore. You have to think afresh every time you take a decision. And therefore, this context, it's creating a great impact on society rather than just the industry. So it is here bringing us the industry, the academia, the society at large in a very closed context of revolutionizing the way we think, the way we enunciate, the way we conceptualize and execute things. Next. See, for 5,000 years, just see, this is like how the human society has progressed. For 5,000 years, it was almost linear. And then suddenly we see that by 2007, this whole thing becomes exponential. This is the beauty of human progress. And this is what is called exponential technological change. That change is not now taking place over a period of time, but at every given point of time. So the shelf life of technology is very short. Shelf life of an idea is even shorter. Next slide. And here you see that when we talk about the trajectory, taking exponential growth into account, only then we can be predicting the right things. If we take the trajectory of even the past growth rate or the present one, none of them lead us to predictability. And this is called the unpredictable world. What people call it variously as the VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. So here, predictability is at a premium. So the world is becoming more unpredictable, and therefore this context has to be understood in this way, that if you have to make predictions, you have to make the prediction taking into view the trajectory based on the exponential growth. Next. We are truly living through the biggest shift in human history. And you can see that, how we as Homo sapiens, we were now kind of, under the technological influence, we are becoming Robo sapiens. And robots are becoming Homo robos. So therefore, that's the context, in fact, in which robotics and humans are interacting. They are changing from robotics to cobotics. They are co-creating the values that are being created today, the way they understood. You see industrial revolution, multiplied your physical capacity. The digital revolution, next, multiplies your mental capacity. And also it multiplies your social capacity. Next slide. You can keep on changing the slide with me. The digital revolution multiplies our even social capacity. And this is the beauty. And then what has happened? As a result of all this, every factor of behavior has changed. Next slide. Every factor of choice has changed. Next slide. We can move a little fast here because there's just, to connect you. Yeah, devices extend the human or vice versa. And next, it transforms the way organizations understand, create, and capture value. Now, this is important because we can go further. And not only, yes, just see how in 1995, there were only 80 million phone users. And by 2021, it's predicted that there'll be 6.18 billion phone users, out of which 3.8 billion would be smartphone users. Next. Data, the price of 1 GB in 1960 was 10 million. Today, it's virtually free. Next. This is the dopamine which all of us are very clearly aware of. There's iCloud, there's Snapchat, Facebook, WhatsApp, Tinder, Twitter, Gmail, company page, Ghana songs, LinkedIn profiles. This is all that is creating a lot of hype today, and it is interconnecting the world. It's creating a hyper-connected world. And therefore, its impact on education can be really felt very differently, as we'll see as we go forward. Next. You see, AT&T took 75 years to reach 50 million consumers. And just see the yellow strip which shows Pokemon just took 19 days. 19 days, ladies and gentlemen, to take you through 50 million users. Next. It is resetting the expectations and markets. Next. Behavior has already changed. Virtual has become physical and physical. Next. It has changed the market context. It has changed the way we look at the market, the way we look at, what is called not the production and consumption economics, they say. It has now become the sharing economy, the circular economy, as they say, where online food delivery grows at such and such rate, quarter on quarter. It's Uberization of life, which means that you can now move from owning to sharing. And later on, as you say, the kind of, context of where even spaces can be shared, where cars can be shared, where all your utilities can be shared. And therefore, as somebody said, that, we are moving towards a zero marginal cost society. And therefore, we are able to present things on platforms at a price which was infinitely unheard of. You just see the cell phones, which have the power almost about 1,000 times more than the computer that would have helped us to land ourselves on the moon. That's the power of technology. But with the technology going up, the efficacy going up, the probity going up, the price has come down. Now, that is the beauty of the context in which we are staying today, where we have in the education field called MOOCs. These free courses online are coming up from the best of institutions, from the best of colleges, from the best of professors and teachers, just because of this context of change. The sharing economy, the circular economy, the decreasing marginal cost economy. Next slide, please. The old DNA was the economy of scale and the economy of scope. Differentiation and price leadership was determining how you could differentiate yourself. But now just see, economies, next slide. Economies of scale and economies of scope still remain. No, earlier slide, please. Earlier slide, you've missed a slide. Okay, I think the slide is missed. Huh? The new DNA is, of course, economies of scale and economies of scope itself, but it has now become non-linear. And the whole context of the platform impact, the networking impact is now being felt. And that is the context in which you see, when you see the things like Netflix growing the way they've grown in the last 4 years. Just imagine, it was at $20.6 million, and now it has just become $152 billion. That's the big unimaginable jump. Move to the next. Why is everybody being threatened? No company is safe, no organization is safe, no institution is safe. And this includes the educational institutions. So we have to, next slide, reframe the enterprise concept. and have to develop our what is called the survival instinct. How can you reimagine the value chain? Next slide. But here we must notice, we have to remember that what is not changing, where and how is changing. Just see the next slide. That's important. Remember, where and how is changing, not what. See, music remains music, but it goes from gramophone to streaming to Spotify to Pandora to iTunes. Next. Photos, next slide. Remain photos, but they move from analog to digital to Instagram to Snapchat. Next. Similarly, videos from TV to YouTube to Netflix to TikTok. Health, next. From hospitals to clinics to apps to wearables. Not just see, something that was unheard of, but what is remaining the same? So those human needs, the human wants, the human's interaction, and that is the basis of all our education concepts and enunciations and execution mechanisms. And therefore, we must remember what is not changing. Humans are not changing. The needs and wants and demands of getting the best out of, the best and the best of institutions being created, the best of services being available at the least possible cost. And technology is making all this happen. Next, please. You have to remember that we don't allow the current model to dictate your future one. Remember, we are today discussing the paradigm shift of our thinking, because we would be slaves and prisoners generally of our current models. Whatever we've been doing, the way we've been taught, the way we've been, made to use to learn, and the context of teaching, we shouldn't become or remain the prisoners of our current model. Let not the past dictate our future. Next slide. And the new job definition of all organizations, ability to unlearn. So paradigm shift is somewhat around unlearning. Next slide. You have to craft a business that can outlive its own business model, because I said shelf life of technology is short, shelf life of an idea is short. Nothing exists beyond the moment. So it becomes redundant the moment anything is born. So we have to be constantly on our agile, nimble-footedness, ready to kind of look at new things, and even if not things new, but at least being able to see the same things with a new eye, with a fresh eye, so that it kind of, creates an impact which gives us a feeling that, yes, there's a world of possibility. Remember, we have moved from the world of probability earlier to the world of possibility. Anything is possible, nothing is impossible. And just see for a moment before we get into the context, see what is technology given us. We are all a digital institution waiting to shed our physical avatar. Next slide. Customers value experience at core. And remember, education 4.0 is all about participation, inclusion, student being the centrality, not the institutions around, as we have had in the current education. In fact, the new education policy of India addresses this need in a big way, where the student value and student experience is at the core. And therefore, roles, not designations, become important. The whole context of an educational institution or organizations are networks of people, not hierarchies. The army versus the guerrilla. The guerrilla seems to be more important than the army, many a times. Next, and just see how the whole organization structure changes. We would see, you see, in this new economic policy, there's a context of transdisciplinary knowledge being imparted, and then we can choose modular courses. A student can opt out of courses whenever he or she feels like, and can choose not necessarily the kind of, fixed course sets. No, just keep it to the earlier slide, please. Just keep it to the earlier slide, and then we'll move to this. But now, under the new economic policy, we can kind of, interchange. We can kind of move from one to the other. And this was the old structure. The new structure is the next slide, please. Yes. Now you can move to the structure will follow this strategy. You see, this is not related to education organization, but it's any organization for that matter. This will be the structure that will follow the strategy. So whatever you want to achieve, you must create a structure. Don't be bound. Don't be a prisoner of the whole structure. The whole thing is about being purpose-led. Workforce determined organogram, the way we want to achieve something, it is purpose-driven, not the other way around. Next. That's right. So everybody will have to be more involved, more participative, more inclusive, more hands-on. Next. This is where the context of organizations, you know, where the monitoring and the support organizations, you see, universities, our colleges should be the temples where this support and monitoring organization is done away with. In this place, the student's experience is created. So this will take time, but this is the way we have to move forward. Next slide, please. This all becomes cacophony. So we have to, because this becomes this whole structure of the current education system where you have to have a concrete institutional basis of buildings, you have to see processes, you have to have labs of a particular kind. Now you can have more or less on the digital phase in the next slide, if you see. Therefore, all this, you know, extra flab is done away with. The institutions can become more really, truly educative to students, giving the customer, the children, the students, the experience that they want to have, and teachers with all their capacity of R&D. Basically, the delivery organization has to be strengthened. So teachers have to be upgraded. Their kind of, you know, mentoring has to take place. And in fact, the benefits has to pass on to the students and the teachers, not necessarily the monitoring or the observing staff or the general staff, which can be kind of, you know, dealt with differently. Next slide, please. So it will all become a self-correcting and learning machine, iteration, 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 and we'll move ahead next. Move to the next. Yes. Therefore, the big question is whether we act to be where we are or else we get ready to be where we would anyways be. So if we are not learning the lessons, because this I showed you, the context was to actually give you a glimpse of what is the context today of technology. How is the technology impacting our society, our ways we conceptualize our life, our society, our civilization, and the way we kind of, you know, enunciate the laws, the processes, the systems, and the way we execute our strategies to bring in the values that we want to create. So this is where we need to kind of pause and think as to what's happening to us. So we can move to the next. See, by 2007, linear extrapolation was dead. Next. And it gets replaced with a paradigm shift. Now, what is paradigm to begin with? Paradigm shift, we can understand. We are coming closer to what we wanted to. And I have created a story. I have created a story for you all today, taking the example of the Swiss watchmaking industry as an example to explain the concept of paradigm shift. What has happened is that we have seen all these technology taking place. So therefore, past only helps you that much. We can get the benefit of the past, but we can't get burdened by the past in order to create or recreate our future. So paradigm is nothing but those parameters which we associate with the current. For example, if we have been doing things in a particular manner, going from office, home to office, office to home, and office to various places, that's the way we thought it's always going to be till COVID occurred. And yesterday I saw the whole context that was shown to you, that probably COVID created this whole digital revolution in a very different way in the world. It actually fast forwarded a lot of trends that had already started. As we have seen, the whole technological disruptive trend started from 2007 only. And this has remained since then. And from that time, it has always remained with us. So paradigm shift is nothing but how do you change these parameters that you associate with the current situations? If there is a table, it has to have 4 legs. Well, table could be 3-legged, or it could just be a kind of a projection or a kind of a log that is put. It can be used as table. Functionality is important, not the structure. And that is something which becomes the biggest bottleneck when we change. We are not able to change because we are all the time limited by the paradigm of a particular thing that we have used to, seeing things in a particular way only. And we see things, but we don't apply fresh eyes. So we see things only that we wish to see. And the whole logic of change becomes, in fact, crucified. So next slide, please. With so much of change, we have to respond in reaction time. Now, this is important. Earlier, people would say that, a student kind of, if supposing we're doing an online kind of, program for students, like we've been doing so far. There's no time for you to respond and react. Means you stay back, you pull yourself back and then think. Changes are taking so fast that, you got to respond in reaction time. Online real-time response is required. Next. Human machines hybrid models alone are capable of handling this level of magnitude and complexity, because parameters are no longer changing sequentially, friends, now. They are all changing simultaneously. And therefore, this whole magnitude of change and the complexity of the change is becoming more and more unmanageable. Next slide. And therefore, what is the implication for us? People element in any organization. Next. The left logical brain is limited capacity to handle this humongous and expansive data, information, and knowledge. So what does the right do? Next slide. Right side usage of brain, creativity, parallel thinking are the only imperatives for us. Next. Conventional paradigms and unverified assumptions become limiting and inhibiting factors. Redefining this paradigm and revisiting such unverified assumptions are the logical way forward. So we have to think of new ways, new means, new processes, new solutions to the existing problems, and seeing the existing problems in a fresh way. That is the order of the day. Yes, next slide. And this becomes very, very obvious. What are we doing, therefore, is zero-based design thinking with agility, the overarching competence which is required to face the volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. Zero-based thinking, we've all used to zero-based budgeting. Now, zero-based thinking is also that you have to think of everything afresh. And that is the way we have to look at paradigm shifts. Next slide. Humans need to now get comfortable with taking decisions while managing the dynamic equilibrium. All of us who are used to studying chemistry and teaching chemistry are talking about the fluids, in fact, dynamic equilibrium. So it's not equilibrium. Equilibrium is never there in any kind of a society. It never was. But we assume that, not getting used to disruptive technologies and market turbulence with which we now have to stay with. We were never comfortable with this. So now we have to live in the world where things were unknown so far and not understood, much less appreciated in the past. Next slide. Actually, this is what I had explained to you in the beginning. We have moved from the world of probability of occurrences between only known things. हमें पता है कि X, Y, Z ये 4 parameters हैं जो होने हैं. अगर monsoon होना है तो उसमें water evaporate होना है Arabian Sea से, and this will evaporate with the heat. It will go up, it will touch the Himalayas, and rains will fall. But now when rains started occurring, very, very erratically, then we had to get into thinking that what's probably, these are the only factors, everything happens, there's sunshine, there's heat, but the rains are not happening. Probably we got to know that there is some kind of an atmospheric or ecospheric, transition which is taking place somewhere in the North Atlantic called the El Nino. Now that is the possible world, because those possibilities of occurring and our assessing them came to us only known when we knew the supercomputers. And therefore the whole expanse of our knowledge expands to factor El Nino, and we are able to have a better predictability of our monsoons. The good news about, as I said, about the world of possibilities is that anything can happen. Any El Nino can hit us. This is how we can be prepared. COVID came from nowhere, absolutely nowhere, but it is an El Nino to the monsoon. We understood that monsoons happen only as a South Asian phenomena, but now we understand that monsoons could be impacted by the El Nino from North Atlantic as COVID did from China. So now this is the new paradigm of life. Next slide, please. This creates a situation where the best practices that we have known no longer remain relevant, and we have to constantly be on the lookout for next practices to be more relevant in the world of future possibilities. As I said, shelf life of technology is very short, that of an idea even shorter. Next slide, please. Yeah. Now, this is where our paradigm shift whole thing. This was all the background that I created. And this background was necessary because otherwise, things come out of without the context. And if you see, the fourth industrial revolution calls for a very different level of what you call the human intelligence. We have known intelligence only, probably we knew IQ and at best EQ, SQ and PQ. But in today's context, there are 4 levels of, intellect or intellectual intelligence, which are required, in fact, to construct or understand, conceptualize, and execute the world of today. And you see the possibility of contextual intelligence of the mind, the emotional intelligence of the heart, the inspired intelligence of the soul, physical intelligence of the body, entrepreneurial intelligence, which gives you a disposition, the strategic intelligence, which gives you the orientation, the transdisciplinary intelligence, which gives you a perspective, the ecosystem awareness intelligence becomes important for you to understand the El Ninos and the COVIDs of the time, where they make sense making becomes possible for us, that yes, this is the way it is happening, and possible route to find a solution to it. And remember, the philosophical intelligence, which is called the Socratic intelligence, is also becoming very, very relevant today. And you remember, everybody you talk to, how's the world, how's COVID treating you? And people have become all some kind of philosophers that, oh my God, these things could happen. Nobody had ever imagined that the world would come to a standstill. The whole global economy will come to a standstill, threatened by a small, but this world of possibility, anything was possible, and we had to factor this. You see, morals, ethical intelligence. So now this world is becoming more and more important. And with yesterday's background, I'm very happy that you were actually exposed to the 2 beautiful presenters, and they talked about the 4th industrial revolution. They talked about technology, they talked about the COVID perspective. And this gives us the background to understanding the 10 levels of intelligence. And therefore, we come to the following 4 things that are important in today's context. Next slide, please. Unlearn and understand. You have to reimagine opportunities. You have to rewire yourself and reconfigure your firms. So just see the new education policy you see, and you see unlearning and understanding. What went wrong, what's working, what's not working, what should stop, what should be accelerated, what should be done in more measure. We have to reimagine the way we have taught. We have to make our curriculum more modular. We have to make our autonomous institutions more autonomous, and having a very broad level of regulation, which gives them the sense of purpose. We got to rewire our entire education system from top to bottom, giving, a whole remodeling of what was called the early age childhood care, which is important as what they call the 5+3. Those formative years, they become very, very relevant, because it's understood that those are the times when the human mind actually, the child is developing all the cognitive possibilities. And therefore, before we get something wrong into his mind, which he'll have to unlearn later, we get him prepared for it, so that everything is, the absorption of the knowledge that he has to take in later becomes more meaningful. And that's the context in which 5+3+3+4 has been created to give the rewired and the reconfigured education pattern, which will take us all the way up. Next slide, please. We can say that in managing the human resources, the best practices. No, I think the next slide, after you move to the earlier slide. Yeah. Move ahead. I think this repetition, I think, has gone in. Yeah, I think you have to move ahead. There's repetition. I think these slides have been repeated. Move again fast, I think. I'm sorry. I think this is what has happened. Yeah. Move to the slide of unlearn and this. And now we come to where we want to start it. So I think this was, I hope this has given the context of the changes that are taking place, the technological disruption. How's this whole pattern? There was a developed pattern that we have followed from colonial times, in fact, and our education policy was inhibited by this. And therefore, we have to revisit, rewire, reconfigure, and reimagine, unlearn, and understand things. So I'll just take you through this story, and it will help you understand what is paradigm shift. And because people use it, that paradigm shift, aapko ab karna hai, you have to think out of box. Now, we will just go through a few slides which will make us understand, and then we can have a discussion on this. So the Swiss watchmaking story has been an example. So next to this, move to the next slide, please. Next. Let's go back to 1950s. Now move slowly with me. Let's go back to 1950s. Swiss people were known to be the best watchmakers in the world. And their model of watchmaking was the mechanical watch, which you see the picture of. So this was the mechanical watch which was there, known to the Swiss people way back in 1950s. Next slide. So this is what I was telling, that this mechanical watch was something that the Swiss people knew. And it was, next slide, as it will happen. You can read it through now. This is a very slowly, if you understand the story, there was a Swiss lady that discovered what is called the principle of using quartz as a technology improvement measure. And this ultimately led to the quartz revolution in watchmaking. So it was a Swiss lady, but the Swiss people did not accept the lady's suggestion. Now, this is what happens most of us when we are told that this is something that I've discovered new. You will evaluate. No, I mean, they cannot be wrong. We are the best watchmakers. How can we go wrong? How can anybody teach us? Next slide. You can see that the lady was not accepted. Her suggestion was not accepted. In fact, she was banished from the Swiss cantons. She in turn went to Japan, and the Japanese accepted her suggestion, and rest is all history. Now, this concept made the Japanese become the pioneers of the automation and revolution in watchmaking industry. We all remember, go back to Rico times and Seiko times when automation was kind of, almost coterminous with this watchmaking of the Japanese. And it leads us to the question as to why did the Swiss do what they did? Next slide. And more importantly, why did the Japanese do what they did? But then just listen to this slide. Probably. Now what happens? This happens to all of us. And this is where, when there is so much of turbulence, and that's what we discussed, that this is very important that we understand the context of paradigm shift, because this is the only way, because everybody talks about changes, technology, but how am I going to adapt, upgrade, modify, and change myself? Why don't I change? Why don't we change? In fact, if there's a question that asked, and we'll ask ourselves this question at the end of this presentation, and probably what holds us back from accepting change? Listen to this. No, just go back to the early slide. You carry the baggage of being the best watchmakers in the world. As such, had a natural resistance to accepting someone else's suggestion, and that too from a lady. Now remember, we talk about India being backward, but we gave to our women the right to vote in 1947 itself. With independence in 1950, in the constitution, it was recognized. But the Swiss people gave the freedom to women only in 1970s. Now imagine how backward these Swiss people were at that point of time. The Europeans, so-called, who taught the rest of the Asians and Africans. And this was probably, how can I accept a suggestion from a woman? Next. They must have thought that being the best in the domain, how could anybody teach them? Next slide. As such, they continued to follow their time-tested ways. And what the Swiss did was even surprising. You know what they did? Because now that they had heard the lady speak about it, they could see through the possibility that yes, she may be right, or maybe something we need to change, but how can they accept it? And there'll be loss of face. So what they did was, next slide, they remained blinded to the utility of quartz as an improvement in watchmaking over the mechanical model perfected from ages, but being perturbed, they studied their watches with gold, silver, platinum. They said there's something must be wrong with the watches. They need to be made more beautiful. In turn, while the watches did become better looking aesthetically, they became extremely expensive instead. All this with no qualitative improvement. They never thought of making a qualitative improvement, but being questioned by a lady, they thought that, okay, now come on, let's make our watches more beautiful. And they studied with, and what happens when things become so expensive? Next slide. Watches became more expensive. a preserve of the rich alone, and as something to be kept in museum for its aesthetic qualities, not its. And just look at the way the pictures actually depict the whole story. Now, watch is not something, and they forgot, yes, that the purpose of improving the watch should be to tell time more accurately rather than look more beautiful. Clearly an example of goal shifting, and that too without being even aware of it. The goal shifting had taken place. Instead of the functionality being improved, in their fear of not changing or keeping the old patterns the way they were used to, they had got ingrained, those paradigms were fixed in their minds about the mechanical construct of a watch. They would not change, and they remain stubborn to it. The goal shifting had taken place, and we need to analyze as to why they were wrong even more. Let us now look at the context of 1950s, post the Second World War era. Next slide. Next slide. What was the requirement of the post-World War era? No, remain to this earlier slide. Less expensive goods, mass-based goods, the requirements of time. Next slide. Move to the next, where obviously the less expensive mass-based goods were the requirements of the time. Next slide. Concept. So this was the need of the market. The earlier need, that mass-based, less expensive. The other need was that concept or measure of time was changing with the computers coming in. Nanoseconds, millimicroseconds, which anyways a mechanical watch could not have measured. So therefore, technologically also, economically firstly, you had to produce mass-based goods which were cheaper. The Swiss instead produced goods that were even more expensive because they studied them with gold, silver, platinum, as we have seen. And they went economically wrong. Also, technologically, the Swiss people should have realized that they need to change. But they thought that nothing's going to happen, they'll remain the best. And they failed to see that computers were developing. So there were certain what they called adjacencies that were changing. So when we say that, our education system won't change because it's the technologies, the industry that is changing. No, I'm sorry, we are wrong. If our adjacencies change, if our society changes, how can the whole institution context of education not change? With the changing society, the changing norms, the changing technology, the changing economy. It has to have not only be concerned about it, it will be impacted by it, but it will itself create impact in a very different sense. So this whole concept of holistic togetherness, the organic linkages, not living as islands was very important, but the Swiss people just ignored this technological, the most important technological disruption. Many people, when they are told about all this, they say, what's this technology that you're trying to tell me? And that's the context in which I put that 15, 20 slides that I showed you to begin with, giving you the background of technological changes, the societal changes that are taking place. So commercially and technologically, what the Swiss did was absolutely counterintuitive. But still they did what they did and ignored what was written clearly on the wall. Next. Now look at, contrary to the Swiss people, what did the Japanese do? And why did they do what they did? Next slide. They did not carry the burden of legacy, or they had no reputation to live up to. Now this is very important. They, with an open mind, they were being available on the periphery of changes that were taking place. They were more cognizant of all the changes that were taking place. Away from the core, they could adapt a new and cost-effective technology, which was dictated by the need. The functional basis was the decision-making criteria, as it should be. Unlike the Swiss people, where the functionality, but the aesthetics became important and functionality was ignored. As long as it fulfilled the requisite purpose of the watch, it provided time more accurately. That was than a mechanical watch could ever have provided. The Japanese looked into this and they realized that, yes, they need to kind of, change this whole context of watchmaking in a very different sense. So they had no burden. So this is important, that they did not have that legacy. They did not have that loss of faith that I am the best. They had nothing to lose probably also. Or they were on the periphery rather than the core of watchmaking. So they could see things from outside. They could also analyze things. What are the changes that are taking place all around us, which will impact our watchmaking industry? So commercially, they made sense because the quartz watches were cheaper and they could be mass produced. And also the fact that it could now answer to the call of nanoseconds, millimicroseconds, and automation was the way forward. So this is how the Japanese did what they did. And this helps us to explain the paradigm shift. Next slide, please. Next. Now, as I told you, old ways won't open new doors. That's important. Paradigm is a structure or a frame of reference of things as we have seen them to be. This is what I told, that, you know, we are used to, that this is the structure, this is the way we've been doing things, this is the way it happens, and this is the way it will happen. Now, that is a very dangerous thing. And, you know, friends, why don't we change? We have basically, I've said that, you know, we have three kinds of fears when we have to change. One is the fear of judgment by others. So keep to this slide right now. I think it's a bit of explanation is important here. We stick to our own old ways of doing things because we have the fear of failure. There are three kinds of fears we have. Fear of failure. What if I'll fail? What if it'll not look so nice? While it will not look so very aesthetically beautiful, people will say that what has happened to the Swiss people? Why are their watches not looking great? That is the fear of judgment by others. What if I fail then? Fear of failure also. And fear of judgment by others is something which is goes together. These two fears. Fear of judgment by others, what will others think and say? And this is half of the problem with all of us. The other is fear of failure. What if I fail? And therefore, friends, whenever we are thinking of change, where innovation and creativity is required, we have to have the freedom of failure. And let me tell you, no fear for failure, because if there is nothing called failure in the world of possibility. You can either win or you can learn. You will never fail if you don't give up. So the whole context of failure is being redefined in the current context. We can celebrate failure. As long as you learn the lessons, you don't repeat the same mistakes. That is the lesson to be learned. So fear of failure and fear of judgment is absolutely not the done thing today. The other third failure, which I said, is about the fear of your own cynicism. No, this is not going to happen. Or this cannot happen. Hobena. This is the whole fear, you know. People generally have that fear. Hobena. Ye to hoga nahi sakta. Ye hoga hi nahi. Ye kaise ho sakta hai? Ye kaise possible hai? And without even trying. So the point is that fear of your cynicism, fear of failure, and fear of judgment by others. These are the three biggest fear. Failure, you know, the remedies for failure. Actually, if at all there's anything called failure. So we have to reconstruct our whole ideas about failure. We have to have a changed norms about judgment by others and my own cynicism. Let me try. If it happens, fine. If it doesn't, maybe I learn. So there's nothing called failure. So this is something that's important here. Things we have seen to be. So the way we have seen to be, our old ways look to be the same. No, but they won't open new doors. That's important. Next slide. Now, what is the paradigm? So going by the earlier slide, we have seen that paradigm is a structure or a frame of reference of things as we have seen them to be. Now, the Swiss people, what they had seen, to them, the paradigm of a watch was a big hands. You can see the watch, big hands, pendulums, springs, and being blinded by this concept stroke paradigm of a watch in their mind, they could not see the utility of a quartz as a watchmaking principle, which would fit in their existing fold of knowledge. So the quartz watch was not making sense to their existing frame of reference of the watch. To them, the paradigm of a watch, it should have springs, it should have big hands, it should have pendulums, it should have swings, it should have springs. And many of us, maybe here, we would be knowing, I think the younger ones may not, that we used to wind and unwind, and the watches would unwind every day. And by the time, the first thing in the morning we'll do is to wind up our watches once again, when we use the old earlier mechanical watches. And so those kind of concepts, this whole thing was very, very different. And therefore, they were imprisoned by their mental paradigm of a watch. The only way that it could be. They thought that that's the only way a watch could be. And this happens with paradigms. Whatever we are used to saying, we start believing that that's the only way to happen. There is no other way. If we don't go to offices, the heavens will fall. This was our old mental paradigm. That if I don't go to my school or college physically, I don't travel through the thick and thin of the crowd, I don't face the pollution, I don't go there, things are going to not work out. But look at what happened. When we were forced to, we stayed back and we found that no, there were possibilities of working from home. There were possibilities, as Nancy so beautifully put in earlier, that we could connect on a distance. This kind of web-based, this was known to us, and we have been following WebEx for God knows how many years. And we had telepresence of Cisco for the last 15 years in industry, but it was never used by the academia. It was never used to teach people. The MOOC courses that started about 5-6 years back, but they were only at the very premier institutions. But now, see, it has become the only way to connect, and I'm one of those. You know, the whole. Just move to the earlier slide. And therefore, if you see, they could not think beyond as they were operating from the core of watchmaking. You see, there is that green dot no, just move to the earlier slide, please. Earlier slides. I think earlier one, still early. Yeah, from this now move to the next gradually. Yeah, this one. Right. So you see what is happening here. You are imprisoned by, or you are operating where? The Swiss people were operating from the green spot, right in the core of watchmaking. So they were knowing everything in the blue space. They knew everything. The only way it could be, that means they were there imprisoned in their own circle of knowledge that was existing about the watchmaking. They thought that they knew everything. They were not knowing anything that was changing outside the question mark in the outer periphery. Watchmaking industry, rather than being available also on the periphery of their contextual surroundings of the world, that was changing beyond watchmaking. So generally, this becomes a problem with we academicians many times. When I deal with academicians, generally in that role, I find that, you know, this does not concern us. Now, what is us and them? That boundary, you have to start respecting again. And this is the core of paradigm not changing. So this is important for us, that unless we are on the periphery, remember, if we are outside, what's happening outside, we are aware of it like Japanese did. Swiss were inside the blue dot, blue circle at the green spot. Japanese were perhaps somewhere where the question marks are put, the green question marks. And they were still looking things from outside. Next slide. Now just see, what is the paradigm that was shifting as we see it today? And you see the watch where 5:33 is written. The next slide. Given the paradigm, frame, shape, look of the watch, as is true even today, in several wall clocks, you still see this whole thing, you know, still existing. We would see time. You are not reading time like 5:33 in the earlier slide. You are seeing time here. So imagine, go back to 1950s and imagine that you had no idea about the current digital watches where time could be written. You were still using sundials in many civilizations. So this watch, the Big Ben, at that point of time was probably the way it is now today shown. You can see time still, but just move to the next slide and you'll see the difference. In the digital watches of today, we instead read time. Now, this is the basis of how paradigm shift takes place. Here you are reading time, and even to the seconds. There, earlier you are seeing time, and you can't differentiate between microseconds, millimicroseconds, if it's not kind of, you know, put in there. It is not factored there. You will not be able to see. So seeing time to reading time is the paradigm shift. Now, this is something which is important for us to understand. The paradigm shift could be absolutely unrelated to what it was. What has to come in the future could be so very different from the past that we just can't imagine. Now just go back to a few 20 years back, or maybe 25 years back, when internet was just beginning to develop. In 95, I remember we just used to have emails, and Hotmail was something that we all had at that point of time, and we would use it for just sending one basic communication once at a time, and we would never know when the reply would come, and there was no way to check, and there were a lot of things which were not operative. It was a one-way communication. But just see, now, could have anybody thought in 1995 that we'll move to an age of internet, which will actually have us online real time, so fast, so quick. We'll move as lightning all across the world. We could talk, we could see. I mean, the videos were not known to us that you can even talk to somebody on the phone was itself quite crazy, and to see somebody was absolutely out of the world. The television was just developing those days. So those are the technologies which at a given point of time look difficult, impossible, become suddenly so possible. This is the paradigm. So our mental makeup, our mental framework of things as they are binds us to what we are, in fact, and remain stuck to that old. Please, next slide. Next, please. Hence, the paradigm of reading time from seeing time in the mechanical watches was something which the Swiss found difficult to comprehend given their mental frame loaded with baggage. Next slide. Paradigm shift, hence, is understood to be a non-linear change. Imagine, from seeing to reading time. Non-linear, this is called non-linear, which requires creativity, parallel thinking, design thinking in our approach to even conceptualize, leave aside actualized. Most often than not, the shift may be non-recognizable from its earlier version. Yes, the seeing time is non-recognizable from the seeing time. Reading time is non-recognizable in its earlier version of seeing time and may not even be connected to it. Still be more efficacious. It could be the thing, notion, or an idea. So this principle could be used for a thing, a notion, or an idea. So this is the paradigm shift. And in a technologically disruptive world of today, where linear extrapolation is dead, this is what I said, when linear extrapolation is dead, you go to the earlier slide, that's fine, the next slide. In the VUCA world of today, when technology disruptive world, where linearity dies its death, paradigm shift is the order of the day to handle the emerging VUCA world. How can things which are unpredictable, remember, just go to the early, just imagine and remember the earliest, the second slide probably, where the context of exponential change was shown, that things are changing place at every given point of time. Things are ambiguous. There is not enough light available. You are taking a decision in a state of semi-dark, where parallel thinking, right side use of brain, creativity becomes more relevant than the knowledge of earlier times, earlier ways of doing it, earlier success factors, the one that we are used to. I have been told many a times that, I had some 30, 35 years of corporate experience. I feel a little unnerved about it. I don't feel very happy because I had experience and was successful, but in a very different context. It does not guarantee that I remain successful unless I unlearn, I relearn and learn things the new way. So I think it's very important for us to kind of, change the ways we have been knowing things, doing things, conceptualizing things, enunciating things, and only then we'll become or remain relevant to the context which is changing very fast. So we can now move to the next slide. Of course, see, if you are good at certain things, you could always remain relevant. You could always remain relevant and good. And you could kind of feel like the Swiss people, they were good at watchmaking. So soon they learned their lessons, but they lost some 20, 30 years in between in watchmaking till the Winter Olympics of 80s, that they learned their lessons. They created a concept of swatch watches. They learned this whole principle of quartz watchmaking, and they kind of digitized their watchmaking industry and to the ways in which it is known to them, all of us today, that they are still now the best watchmakers once again, but they lost out just because of their not able to have a paradigm shift at the time when it should have happened. Now, this will lead to the next question. You can move to the next slide now. So I suppose you all have understood the context of what I called the paradigm shift. And with this paradigm shift, now let us see, how do we create a tool to think out of the box? But why doesn't it happen? It happens with most of us. Most of the times in civilization, people have failed. We have known the technology change coming for the last 20 years. We were all knowing that the disruption is coming. The dot-com burst happened. The dot-com boom occurred, and the dot-com burst happened again. There was the Lehman crisis. This technological revolution in 2007 had shown to the world that Moore's law showed that the processing capacity of technology was doubling almost every 2 years, 18 months to be precise, not even 2 years, and which is now even shorter. Quantum computing was being developed, and it will create further transition from the disruptive level of technologies. The blockchain was coming, the 3D printing was coming. But all of us all the time think that nothing's going to happen to us. This is not going to get impacted. This is not going to impact at least India. It will still remain, non-digitally connected. But let me tell you, friends, this is what happened. COVID actually really created what was told yesterday to you by Professor Gill, that, that yes, that is the real reason why technological revolution is taking place, at least in India, more than any other country. So the way out is that I've created a small tool, and you'll find it very interesting as you move this. So could you move to the next slide, please? Yeah. You can move to the next, I think. This will make more sense later. Yeah. See what happens. Why don't we, stay to this, stay with this. See, this is what happens. So this is the tool for you to think out of the box. So people say that, okay, you've told us what is paradigm shift. It's all easy. We all knew it. But firstly, we understood. Most of us didn't understand. At least I did not understand what paradigm shift could mean till I could analyze this whole experience. In fact, and I dealt with this Swiss experience, in fact, in a very different way, and created that whole concept so clear. And therefore, I thought that it will be better to me, rather than just speak about it, to show you in pictures. Now, here is a circle. And this is all about why don't we change? What stops us from changing? Why do we become so impertinent to change? You see, we all of us are experts in whichever field we are. And we think that we are great. We don't have anything to learn. We know everything within this. So we remain confined to the circle within the yellow spot. And we kind of, draw all the curtains around the circumference of the circle. The outside world exists. The changes are taking place, but they're not for me. I know it. I know my world. And everything operates according to the way I said. I'm an expert. Please obey me. Please listen to me, like the Swiss people said. And they would not listen to any other influence. But somehow the other, if at all, there is some new fact which emerges and you are able to take cognizance of it, just see what happens. Just move to the next slide. There are new facts which are emerging. And all that you have to do is to move from your comfort zone of center, being there, at least see the facts. Don't think, just draw the curtain. Have a small window on the circumference of your circle, which you had kept closed so far, and look at, there are certain new facts which you see. You see the color of the water different out there than the one that you have known. People understood that, oh my God, quartz is a different technology. This is going to change. This can change the way the watches are looked at. And maybe the watches of the future would be very different from the way I have known. I have treated them. I've created them. That is the new facts. And now with this new fact emerges your curiosity. Okay, let me know further then in that case. So that's the first step you have taken. And then your curiosity drives to know more. And just move to the third slide. Next slide. Here you now start looking at things from outside your known circumference or known circle of knowledge. This is called out of box. This becomes very important picturesquely. Now we understand this is the box that we were into. That black circle was the box where I was very competent. I knew myself. I knew everything, but I was not knowing the things outside. And moreover, the second aspect is that I was not seeing the way people look at me, how they find me. So this is the way to be empathetic to the needs of the student, the customer. As teachers, we need to be now empathetic. The student is contained within the circle, and he is our customer. How does he look at us now? And how would student is outside as a customer, and now you also go to his place, because see, nobody can get into anybody's shoes. It's all a saying for long that people must wear the other's shoes. You cannot fit into anybody's shoes even if you wear them. So the only way to be empathetic about the need is to look at from their point of view, from their position, from their point. And this is the way to look at point of view of the customers. You look at yourself. Oh my God, I thought I am looking different. This is what it is. This is what people think of me. But still you think, here you don't know everything about the changes that others are seeing. There is a space below the black dot which is still not seen. And therefore, what you need to do, staying out there, you continue to revolve around the circle, around the periphery of the circumference like the earth. And this is the next slide. Next slide, please. Here you start moving around that circumference. And not only moving, revolving, but also rotating. Because once you're evolving, you're still seeing from outside inside. You're seeing only inward. Your view is still inward. When you start rotating and revolving both around outside your circle of known knowledge at a given point of time, you start bringing in knowledge from outside. This is called outside in. Inside out, outside in view about what you know, what you have known. And there is this whole world of unknown world to be explored outside you. Ever expansive horizons of knowledge, which we did not even know what we did not know. Now you start exploring this area. You did not even know what you did not know so far. And once you start getting in touch with them, you start incorporating gradually, you're becoming more comfortable with this unknown things so far. And that's how our knowledge expands. And we stay out of box because we never to go back into that black circle. In fact, excuse me, keep on expanding the circle of your knowledge by getting to know more and more of the outer world, the new technology, the new frameworks, the new possibilities, the new societal norms, the new requirements, new ways of looking at old things, looking at things from outside in, inside out. You see, inside out, you see the ever expansive knowledge, which increases you, enriches you, enhances you, encourages you to understand more. It enlarges your context of knowing what you did not know. And the outside in perspective helps you to develop better curriculum, better structures, better processes, better ways of teaching students the way they would like or you would like to be taught, seeing yourself from outside the box. So this is something which I thought was a great way of showing what that outer box was to mean to us. Now the next few slides I have shown, I'll have put them to now understand. But before we move to the next slide, just you can show the next slide. You can stop there. Next slide. So this is all we have shown, that all the 4 circles now. In the first circle, you see this is the slide, of course. Yeah, you just see all the 4 circles together. That's all. Now, this is the slide which I wanted you to concentrate on. Now, what has happened to the whole education sector today? Education is all about not just enhancing knowledge, but basically increasing the competence of the students. And one aspect of students is knowledge, skill, and the aptitude and the values. So there are 4 components of competence of students, and I call them knowledge, skill, attitude, aptitude, or the values. And if you see, as per the survey conducted by the World Economic Forum, they said that out of these skills which are there, just see the top 5 skills. They are complex problem solving, social skills, process skills, system skills, and cognitive abilities. These are the ones which have been recognized by Education 4.0 and also by the new education policy. They constitute now, they are skill sets of the future. Of course, this was done way back in 2015, and 2015 and 20 has already happened. So this is while we are living, and that's the reason that the new education policy had to incorporate this. The resource management skills, the technical skills, the content skills, the physical abilities are the ones which are going away. They are becoming less and less important. Only 20% contribution, 80% is of those which we thought were soft skills so far. They are the emotional. Remember the 10 slides showing the 10 intelligences about the contextual intelligence, the emotional intelligence, the intellectual intelligence, the physical intelligence, the entrepreneurial intelligence, strategic intelligence. We talked about transdisciplinary intelligence, Socratic intelligence. Now those are the ethical intelligence. This is becoming important for students, in fact. And therefore, this whole paradigm shift has to occur, that, no longer those motor skills, the technical skills. We are afraid that robotics will do everything which is programmable and predictable. Remember that. What was this technical skills and content skills and physical abilities? They were those things which now robots will do better. They are transactional. Humans will do the top 80%, which are, again, if you kind of analyze it, they are all strategic and portfolio level skills, which help people, in fact, humans to exist as humans. Now that is important for us. That's the paradigm shift, because we have known, we thought that jobs would be doing some secretarial job, typing job, a data entry job. This is all absolutely transactional and done. It is no longer relevant as human skill. computers can do better because that's programmable and predictable. Remember the VUCA world, the unpredictable world is something which you have to apply your decision making. You have to get all the data. You have to analyze all the data. You have to take the decisions, in fact, in consonance with all the knowledge and data available to you as humans. So humans will have to do things which are more befitting humans. And therefore, this slide was very important before we kind of, move to the this whole context, because of all this change that is taking place, the technological disruption that is taking place. You move to the earlier slides, please. Otherwise, I think you're going far too ahead. Far too ahead. Just keep on going back. Yeah, even further back. Yeah, this very quickly we'll show, and we'll end, I think, in the next 5-10 minutes maximum. Nancy, we have time for 5 more minutes, or 5 to 8 more minutes.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, we have time. No problem. You can take another max minutes.
Because I want to now conclude from out of this. We have dealt a lot of things. A lot of things have been packed now. See, your belief and value paradigms which are altering the required behavior. This whole value of human knowledge, which is emerging. In fact, that humans should be more dealing with cognitive abilities, system skills, complex problem solving, what is called cognitive flexibility. They are having more those human skills, those decision making, judgment skills, creativity, critical thinking, complex problem solving, which are more human. Next slide, if you can go to, you'll understand the value paradigms which are changing and our required behaviors leading to. The next slide. Next, this is, of course, if you can just read it through, in the current turbulent, disruptive market and technological scenario, a perspective on belief and value paradigms. Recalibrating our belief and value paradigms, changing behavior, and therefore its impact on the business outcomes. This is very important that, our belief systems are changing. We have to recalibrate our belief and value paradigms, which we have seen, changing our behavior and its impact on business outcomes. And we'll see 4 or 5 of them. I've kind of, just put in these 5 values and beliefs which are changing, and they will change our whole world. You can move to the next slide. Yeah. Just see the conventional belief paradigms. The conventional value and belief paradigm was limited, inhibited by given assumed boundaries within the circle, remember? And the new belief and value paradigms are ever expansive, boundaryless horizons. The way to know is that I should know what I did not know, even what I do not know. So from not knowing what I don't know to not knowing what I don't even know, what it is, what I don't know. That is the ever expansive horizon that we need to kind of, so the new world of possibility is to actually change the belief and value paradigm about the ever expansive boundaryless horizons. Next slide. The conventional started with inherent constraints. My God, there are inherent constraints in that old world view. The Swiss watch, remember, inherent constraints. How can the watches do the function? How can cords do it? But now you have to start looking at the inherent potential that is there in every human, every individual, every student. There are good boys and bad boys, we will call. And that's one of the assumptions that is changing. And I'll show you in the next few slides. That there is a good student, a bad, there's nothing called a good student or a bad student. It's every student having that inherent potential. It's up to us. Move to the next slide. Yeah, remain to the slide. We started that the world is inherently complex. See, complexity is only as long as you don't understand. If you, through usage of technology, robotics, cobotics, advanced technology, you are able to see through the meaning in the world, the whole world becomes intelligible, and therefore the world doesn't remain complex anymore. The world becomes inherently intelligible and inherently simple. So this is a value paradigm. That means the first one was that we had come to the fact that there's inherent constraints to inherent potential, given assumed boundaries, ever expansive boundaries. And now we say that inherent complexity to inherent simplicity. Now, the next version that is going to change the next value paradigm. Next one. There's inherent conflict. We always assume that there's always, conflict is required whenever you are existing in life. I must outdo the other. The point is that no, inherent win-win is possible. All that you have to do is don't fight for the size, increasing the size of the pie in the cake, but be able to, using technology, create a larger cake. Once you create a larger cake, everybody can have a larger pie. That's the beauty of technology. Not only fight for those increased size of the pie of the cake, but maybe able to create another cake Be a Steve Jobs, be George Bezos, be somebody absolutely one who can think absolutely of a new business altogether, a new paradigm. There was nothing called Apple as a kind of a technology in iTunes that they were the first time remembering that yes, it is important and this something can be done, and Steve Jobs saw it, and then the rest of the world. There was no consumer survey that was conducted that people said that they want something called iTunes and iPhone, and they wanted this whole thing on the camera, and then that all was possible. That is it. He created a larger cake, and not only a larger cake, he created a separate cake altogether. That is inherent win-win, is the way forward. And then last but not the, and this is the second last, inherent certainty and optima. We think that there is certainty in the world. Ye to hame pata hoga. The world is inherently uncertain. Remember, the world is ambiguous. The world is unpredictable. We have the world of possibility. Anything is possible. And the principle of uncertainty of Heisenberg states very clearly that you cannot know the position as well as the speed of the electron at a given point of time. You can know either or, not both of them together simultaneously. Because nothing is happening simultaneously there. It's not happening sequentially, it's happening simultaneously. So to kind of, have an understanding that you will be certain of any particular thing at a given point of time is impossible. Good enough. That's the way to look forward. And the next very important one, which is there are good students and bad students. The next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah. Inherently bad students or bad people. No. But they are all good people, only bad assumptions. Our assumptions about students that no, I mean, they need to be kind of, given a more particular interest. We need to create a kind of, a particular customized intervention for students. Every student has different needs. There are special needs students, that's all. There is nothing called good or bad or less or more. Students are students inherently potential, remember? No inherent constraint, but inherent potential. So friends, these are the 5 value and belief systems that need to change. And they are going to make us audacious. Remember, this 21st century is for refine. Again, we remember those things: unlearning, relearning, reimagining, rebooting yourself, reconfiguring yourself, and revisiting all your paradigms. And that is the most important lesson that we kind of, will learn in this world if we have to exist. The year 2007 has created whatever it had to create. It's create a world of possibility. Now it's going to get even more complicated. It's going to get even more kind of, challenging. And the complexity is going to increase. The magnitude is going to increase. This is the time for us to learn. That's the way we kind of, use design thinking, parallel thinking, right part of brain, creativity and parallel thinking to make our paradigms, don't hold us back. We kind of constantly reimagine, reboot our paradigms. And with this, I think I've come to the end. There are just about 10 to 12 slides, which we'll just run through. Therefore, people in this 21st century with this, the new thinking, new possibilities would be around these just one line slides they are. And you can, the new thinking, next slide, please. You can just see what is the new thinking to conclude. The new thinking is all about wearing reading glasses and having a 2020 vision of the future. That means you got to have the big picture and small details together. Next. You don't assume things as black and whites, all shades in between is something that you need to take care of. And now imagine the new education policy is exactly conforming to this. Hearing the silent knock of opportunities, the startup culture, how do you address that? The opportunities don't come with a bang. You have to hear this voice of silence, turning any year into a leap year. Have that audacity to create that much extra despite the shortage of one day in that year. But you produce much more or as much as if the world had 29 days in that month itself. Next. There is a level playing field and you still can find a new angle. There's a level playing field. Technology, fortunately, the knowledge that is today available is to democratize knowledge. I think it's all available on the Wikipedias, the Googles, the MOOC courses of the world. It's all up to you to find a new angle. So everybody is on a level playing field. Nobody has that the democratization of education, the democratization of access to education. The whole thing has been created. It can still be there. There are a lot of gaps. There are a lot of inherent inequalities existing. But by and large, the world is flat. and you have to find a new angle still on a flat surface. You'll say, what is it? And the next slide, the crossroads and U-turns of life and never losing your way. This is something which is very inherently important for us. Traveling light, now next slide. Traveling light with no mental baggage. This is something you can do. You got to travel light with no mental baggage at all. So you should not be, you don't have head weight problem. You can have physical weight problems. You can be put on weight, but don't put on head weight. It's the head weight or the baggage like the Japanese, like the Swiss people did, you know. That was something which was absolutely the things that held them back. The big picture and small details together. World is, in fact, you know, you can't be counting trees and losing the sight of the forest. That's important. Next. Leadership calls for taking the credit, giving the credit and taking the blame. Sorry. And this is something that's something inherently known to us, that in a world of technological disruption where things are going to fail, 99% of the startups, you know, don't come up to on time and up to the expectations to begin with. But then you got to encourage people. Don't let them think that they failed. Let them be there. It's all work in progress. They can only win and they can only learn. They can't fail. So there's no point blaming. Realizing that the next slide, realizing that the shortest distance between 2 points is a learning curve. Now we thought that learning is a difficult thing. It's a circuitous route. You got to online real time. You have to learn. Realizing that the shortest distance between 2 points is not a straight line anymore, but it's actually a learning curve. Success, failures, next slides, and being unaffected by either. That is important for us to move. Being disciplined and breaking the rules. This is very important. You understand what is right, wrong, and then take the exceptions. That is what maturity is all about. In fact, somebody asked me, how do you define maturity? I said, you will become more mature if you are able to increase your capacity to take more and more nonsense in life. So somebody laughed at me, but I said, no, that's really the best definition of maturity. The more mature a person becomes, the more nonsense he or she can take. Learning from history, but not being burdened by it. You'd be proud of our culture, civilization, heritage, everything that's very important, but don't get burdened by it. If it works, works. If it works, get the benefit of it, incorporate it. If it doesn't, what doesn't work, just give it away and move forward. Next. You got to take quick decisions without losing your long-term dreams. So you got to have a purpose in life. You dream big, but move on. That's important. Next, ironies of calm in an age of turbulence. That's important. And the next slides, most important slide now is that P ratios and EBITDA margins are only monetary consideration. They are the financial equity. But you got to create values of education for students, for everybody. You got to create social equity. You got to create emotional equity of the child, the social equity of the society, and the financial equity would always be guaranteed. Financial equity is never an object to be achieved, but a byproduct that you achieve if you get social equity of the society at large and the emotional equity of the students. Now that is something which I thought was, you know, very important for all of us to understand, and now take it from there. And this really brings us to the end of it, that paradigm shift. We've been trying to understand these are the principles, the value paradigm, the belief systems that change. And it gives us a reason, understanding the context, the technological disruption. The only way to understand is how you kind of, you know, deal with critical thinking, creativity, parallel thinking, and the possibilities of managing the impossible. So I think that's exactly what I have to say about the paradigm shift and out-of-box thinking. You really get out of box. You get out of the circle. The box here means the circle that you go out of, and think from outside, rotate and revolve, never come back. Always try to stay out and see things from a distance. You'll always see better. Thank you.
It was indeed a wonderful session, sir. Wonderful is also, you know, I'm out of words today. Somehow the session has been so mesmerizing that as an educator, as a learner, as a lifelong learner, I feel we've learned a lot. We've learned not just from being an educationist point of view, but we've learned how we need to, you know, move forward, the way forward in the economy today. You have touched almost all
Nancy,
aspects.
it's about redefining the algorithm of life.
Exactly.
So that was the context. If we keep that, you know, education cannot be different. So it's part
Exactly,
of
sir. And
redefining the
not just
algorithm of life. That's important.
wonderful, sir. And not just revamping, redesigning, restructuring our own self. It is, I feel revamping not just the education structure. The structure is not just important anymore, as you said. Functionality is important rather than the structure. And in
Yes.
today's world, we're not going to fancy school, fancy colleges, or the building that matters. What matters, education has come
Learning.
down to the basic level between the
The learning.
educator and the student.
Yeah.
That is, the paradigm shift. We are able to understand that. I guess now it's all the more responsibility, all the more on the shoulders of educators and the teachers. The school education, the university education will be saved only because of the student taking interest in these sessions and teacher putting all cent% effort right there. So
Absolutely.
I just loved your one-liner, sir. The kind of slides, extensive work you've done in putting your slides over. Hats off to you. I believe if you see the chat, each and every educator, everyone present here is mesmerized. I'll say whatever you said, just I'll repeat one or two till the time. To recap, what you said was really a gist of all. Today's time, you'll either win or learn. There is no way to give up. The
Yeah.
failure doesn't exist. And very rightly said, you just said that yes, there is a silent knock of opportunities now. The teachers have to be more aware now. The teachers have to be, you have to grab opportunities rather than, waiting for the opportunities to come. The teachers have to be lifelong learners rather than waiting for a, once in a while learning session now. They need to revamp themselves now and then. And trust me, it is not just the school education that we are doing now. It is not being from the educator point of view. I feel the kind of presentation you've given, it is a 360-degree approach of how we should think, how we should, balance our analytical thinking with the real working. So surely out of box thinking, as your topic says, you made us learn that. And now the big question arrived, whether we are acting, whether we are ready to act according to the present norms, or we want to be in the same cocoon. And trust me, if you're in the same cocoon, there's no way ahead. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for shifting, for my knowledge also, that we are shifting from the EQ, IQ, PQ, SQ to the 10 intelligence that we need to focus upon. Ultimately, we all educators have joined for the prime motive of overall development of the students of the nation. So
Yeah.
unless and until we focus upon, the intelligence of the student, nothing gonna be, working. So
Yeah.
thank you so much. It has been a wonderful session. Before inviting our next faculty, Colonel Indrajit Singh, sir, who is rightly there with us since long time and enjoying your presentation.
I'm sorry
I
actually
request,
that I took time. I
not
think
at
I
all.
took time out of empty.
All good, sir.
All
All
a
good.
treat for us.
Everyone was loving it, the sir. So we are blessed. No, to kindly don't say sorry. We are blessed that we got an ocean of knowledge, and you indeed shared an ocean just in a span of 1.5 hour. That was the ocean that you loaded us with, and now people are already asking for your presentation that they can go through it time and again. And some people are saying that they need the recording so that they can watch on a loop, and people are just falling in love with the kind of the knowledge you have shared. So thank you. We are indeed blessed. And at the end, we are going to take question answers. Now we are going to move forward with the second session with Colonel Indrajit Singh, another wonderful human being, a world acclaimed personality. He is a chief cybersecurity officer at Vara United. We are privileged that Colonel Indrajit has always been around us. The beauty of Colonel Indrajit is that he's a wonderful human being carrying decades of expertise with him. But we just shoot him one message on a WhatsApp that, sir, we would love to have your golden words of wisdom. And he immediately says, okay, Manish, I'll be there. And seriously, sir, the kind of attitude, the kind of gestures you show, anyone can make, you can make anyone fall in love with you. Thank you with my folded hands, with the deepest core of my heart. I welcome you at the platform. And Rajiv sir is smiling, and I'm sure he is also willing to listen to you. And the best part is, Colonel
Yeah,
Indrajit,
I'll
sir,
definitely. I'll
wonderful,
definitely
wonderful,
like to
Rajiv sir.
listen, but I wish, in fact, I could because I have some appointment with people.
Okay.
So I'll just have to slip out, but I'll really like to be as long as I can, I think.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful,
Thank you
sir.
so much, sir. Thank you, Colonel Sir.
And the beauty of Colonel Inderjit sir session is that whatever we do in the world, wherever we do, whether it's driving a car, learning knowledge, anything, we need safety. And he is that human being who keeps us safe in the digital world. Imagine, have you ever thought that we will come to an era in a digital world whereby we don't even know how to keep ourselves safe? Everything is digital, 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 digital is the new norm. And here is the man himself who has made available for all of us and for our safety. So howsoever, how much soever we thank him, it's not enough. Thank you, sir. And it would be over to Dr. Nancy. Kindly please introduce her so that we can move ahead with the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jandil. It's indeed a privilege to introduce such esteemed faculty today. And now I wholeheartedly, on behalf of MentorX board and team, welcome Colonel Inderjit Singh. And here I read his profile out for all of you. Colonel Inderjit Singh is a Chief Cybersecurity Officer at Vara Technology. In this role, he is instrumental in building the cyber safety business unit for the group. He's working on the disruptive technology in cybersecurity space for securing IT networks, smart cities, and critical information infrastructure. He served in Indian Army and an alumni of IIT Kharagpur and Symbiosis Institute of Management, Pune. He is an experienced infosystem professional with experience of more than 29 years across wide spectrum of areas spanning cybersecurity, cyber forensics, cyber welfare, cyber terrorism, Internet of Things, blockchain, cyberonomics, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and smart cities. He has consistently been awarded while in Army and was awarded Magnificent CIO of the Year, award in the year 2016, and Excellence Award by International Police Commissioner in the year 2019. He's been among the 50 Innovative Leaders Award 2020 and Cybersecurity Leadership Award 2020. What to say? Today, he's the best choice ever for all of you here to learn the deep technology knowledge of cybersecurity and how we can be safe in the online world, as everything is digital today and we are depending on the technology. We want to integrate technology in the education system. He's the right person to tell us how to use it, but leverage technology and be safe in the online world. So over to you. We welcome you, sir, and we look forward to your session. I request all of the participants to write upon, make the notes, and post your question answers in the chat. We'll take it all with our faculty at the closing of the session. Thank you so much, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Nancy, Dr. Manish. It's really wonderful. I don't have words to reciprocate to you in the manner you have told about me. It is really wonderful, and today it's my pleasure to be on this platform speaking to all the attendees today on the cybersecurity aspect. And I was listening to Mr. Rajiv's presentation also, and it was really giving me a thought process as to why so it's important to retune your capabilities on and off to reach to the top. And even if you're at the top, how do you realign your capabilities again? So it's a vicious circle as to once you're trying to reach one level, beyond one level when you reach, how do you realign and keep it continuing? I think that was Mr. Rajiv's wonderful talk which I was listening to, and thank you. It was very insightful, I should say. And Dr. Manish Jindal, really wonderful for this platform and bringing together all the people discussing on these topics, very important for all of us to grow right now. And it's the time when we grow from one stage to another while being hit by the COVID. It's very important for us to move to the next stage, because the life goes on. We really don't have to stick on to this point of the COVID. If we really stick on, we are never going to look back and move to the next stage. So that's where the things are. But today, what I'm going to be talking of is, and thank you, Dr. Nancy, for my background and my biodata about me. Thanks for those kind words. And today, what I'm going to be talking about is the cybersecurity, and you know, in particular, because why cybersecurity? Because everybody's got affected by it. And to tell you one fact, very interestingly, that we never spoke of the cybersecurity in the same manner which we did earlier. Dr. Nancy, can you share me, assist me with the sharing?
Yes,
of
I'm giving you the right, sir. I'm making you the host. Sorry, pardon me for that. I should have done that earlier.
So practically, you know, cybersecurity, we never spoke like this. Even a kid talks of a cybersecurity, even in a old, you know, grandparent talk of cybersecurity. Everybody talks of the cybersecurity in the manner, you know, the way it was earlier. And this is a very interesting situation which has happened, and thanks to COVID, it has gone, you know, far more than what we had thought of it. And practically, what we have seen, one more thing is that during COVID, it is like the complete cybersecurity paradigm has changed altogether. And what is the next level is how do we, you know, go to secure ourselves, right? Today, every day we are finding one case or the another. You know, either we are being cyberbullied. I was reading a case where Sonakshi Sinha was being cyberbullied, and it was very difficulty to, you know, track her, you know, bully guys who had bullied her down, right? Then we saw a case of the Instagram, that boys' room case, which happened very live in Delhi. It was there, right? Even yesterday, there was a case where some of the students who wanted to sell their fridge in the apartment, they were being, you know, cheated with 1 lakh rupees siphoned off through the Paytm hack and stuff like that. And practically, this is all happening day in and day out. It's not that what I'm telling is a hypothetical. Earlier, you know, we used to talk of the cyber challenges or the cyber security or the cyber attacks once in 6 months, or say, you know, once in 2 months or so. It was not a household topic to discuss. But what has happened is last 1 to 2 years, the cybersecurity has become a household name. The number of, why? Because the number of attacks have increased so much, right? And this is what I'm going to be trying to be talking to you about, is what is the cybersecurity all about, how you need to protect yourself. And then I'll touch upon especially the COVID situation, and especially people who are there in the enterprise or the colleges, and they have just moved to the houses, you know, and they are trying to work from there. How do we secure ourselves? What happened? And really, it will give you those cases which were there, which are live in the last 3 to 4 months, and how we are going to, you know, be secure, right? So one of the key points which I would like to bring about is that number of hacks have increased so much in the last 4 to 6 months, and especially I'll be covering that up in my subsequent talks. It's gone phenomenally very high. And I will jump the gun here and tell you, in the month of April, there was a first attack on the 4th largest power grid of the world in Portuguese. They asked for 15.2 million euros in Bitcoin. Then very recently, Grameen, it was being hacked. They asked for almost $10 million in Bitcoin. Okay. Before that, there were 7 to 8 colleges. Now you will say, why? What's there in the colleges? There were 7 to 8 colleges in UK which had a ransomware attack. Okay, their data was stolen. And only day before, or a couple of days back, University of Utah was, you know, they had a ransomware attack, and they paid $4,57,000 in, you know, in ransomware. I'm just giving you just few examples, right? There are power grid which have been hacked. There are railway signals which are being hacked. There are universities which are getting hacked. There are hospitals which are getting hacked, right? So the point which I want to bring about is practically nobody is safe today. And that is what is the problem which we are facing. Whatsoever you do, you're either already hacked or you're going to be hacked. Okay, there's no survival out of it. So if you want to be safe, you need to take care of your data. You need to take care of your machines. You need to take care of whatever you have. You know, otherwise, hackers will find ways and means to hack you. And these other hacks are not just the hacks. Practically what they do is they encrypt your files. Now you just imagine your college data, your research data, your confidential data, your personal photographs, and somebody says one fine day that all these files are hacked, they're all encrypted. Now if you don't pay money, I'll delete the files, and they show the samples of those files. Okay, so this is what is the challenge what we are facing. And what we are seeing is almost 43% of the data attacks are on the small businesses. It's not that the big businesses are of concern. In small businesses, they want to, attack. And 91% of the breaches are through phishing. And I'll just tell you what is a phishing to put everybody on the common platform. Like everybody, all of you would have got a Gmail account or Yahoo or Hotmail or Outlook or whatever. Now you get so many spam mails, which are not that mails which were you were thinking. They're all unsolicited mails which are coming to you, right? And you don't know who is sending those mails. Some of the mails are very specific to you. Some of the mails are telling you, okay, click on this link and you do this. And once you click on those links, practically it's a bait for you. You fall into the trap and you lose data, or it takes away your credentials. Okay. Similarly, you have some of the examples when it comes for in banks, when you have a phishing, you get a lot of SMSs that your bank site may be a phishing attack. So be very careful. So that's how you have to be careful about it. Okay. Then is your IoT attacks, which have increased almost 600% in 2019. That's most concerning. IoT is, just to tell you, your Alexas, your Fitbit, your Google Home, your smart TV, and your smart everything, even your smart fridge, CCTV cameras, smart city, right? So IoT, those are all the IoT devices. Okay, and they have increased almost 600% in 2019. That's really phenomenal. Okay, and 31% of the organizations have experienced cyber attack on the operational infrastructure. Like I told you, the power grid. Even in India, on June of 18th, we found that there was a power grid attack. Now you may be saying, it doesn't really matter why it's a attack on power grid. No, it's really mattering you, because if sitting in Delhi, if your power grid is hacked and you lose the complete power for 2 to 3 days, just imagine what's going to happen to you. That's the situation we are in today, right? Then all your hospitals, your healthcare system has been infected by, attack in some point in time. And that has increased almost 75% in the healthcare industry. So I want to bring it out today. Like you have the IT, the healthcare is the new IT sector. Okay, the amount of IT which is getting into the healthcare to monitor different parameters of the patients is phenomenally very high, and that's the target of all the hackers. In March, of this particular year itself, hackers, when the COVID was on, in Czech Republic, they attacked one of the hospitals in Czech Republic. They had to cancel all the surgeries. Just imagine this happens to you as well. What happens? Okay, in any of your hospitals today, and it's all possible. Okay, something very concerning is that most of the companies who got employees of more than 500 employees, they have now changed their password as well. They're 65% of that number. And don't be surprised if I ask you, even now you will say I have changed my password, but if I ask you candidly, you will say how many people have changed password during last 6 months. When the number of cyber attacks have increased, the number would be minuscule, right? And something which is hitting everyone, I've just told you the ransomware attack. Ransomware attack is that the hacker practically takes control of your computer, he takes some control of your files, encrypts it, and then asks for the money. That's increased almost 20 to 25% in this last quarter itself. Okay, it's really a point of concern of the ransomware. Okay, And also here I'd like to bring about is there's one more kind of extortion which has started coming up, is the sextortion, which is there, where they say, we have seen you, in a compromised position, you were watching a video which was, pornography, and we have made a clip out of it. If you don't pay, we will make this, a video public. So you get scared when it happens. And that is the real point of concern. Okay. So having said so, these are kind of the landscape which is increasing quite a bit. This is the kind of challenge what we are facing. And this report, which I'm just giving it to you, is this quarter's report, where it is, we have seen 3.2 billion malware attacks. That means the virus kind of attacks which have happened. 3.2 billion. Just imagine number of attacks which are happening every day. Divided by number of days, divided by number of hours, and you'll find so complex a number. It is mind-boggling. There's a 20% increase of the ransomware attack. 2.3 trillion intrusion attempts into your networks. People are trying to get into your networks. Okay, 1.7 million are the encrypted threats which are there. Like I told you, IoT malwares, they're growing in number. It's almost 50% plus on the higher side. And something important, something very concerning is the cryptojacking, right? So we will touch upon that. It was almost 4.41 million in number. So if you look at it, there's a 20% jump in the ransomware globally, and it saw a almost 109% spike in US altogether. Though malware was around 24% because it all went towards the ransomware, and then 7% of the phishing attacks capitalized on the COVID itself, because this is again very important. If all the hackers today are, encapsulating the situation of the COVID-19. Okay, people who are using Microsoft Office, they saw almost 176% increase in the malicious files. That's really very high. Okay, and 50% rise of the IoT malware attack. So these figures are mind-boggling by any number, and it's a point of concern where we have to think of that. We have to be very careful in times to come, because we are becoming vulnerable every minute, every second out of it. So what it seems to be like a week when it was early somewhere coming, it's just hours, months, or kind of a days which is happening now. So it's so important to understand these kind of attacks. And when you get hit by a ransomware, the hackers are no more a kind of a geek who's just doing for fun. He's got a reason behind it to do a ransomware attack. And on the left side of the slide, if I show it to you, this is the kind of post which you get that your machine has been hacked, and it tells you what to do. He gives you the Bitcoin wallet address. It tells you where to send your Bitcoins, and he collects it, right? And it's really complex. It's easy said than done that we will format it and we'll get away with it. It's not possible, right? So we are seeing the ransomware attack happening on all, whether it's healthcare, industries, small offices, your power grids, your rail networks, everywhere, right? And it's really creating a havoc all across the world. And this is the kind of a brief history of the ransomwares which are being hitting every year, and this number is growing. So I've told you the patterns of it, and this year itself I've seen 6 to 7 different ransomware patterns which have come up, which are each one of them is so complex that really their algorithms are different, the way they operate is different, and the way they conduct the complete attack is different. So with this all, why you have to know about the cybersecurity? these are the points of concern which I just brought it out. Why is cybersecurity awareness? I think that is the one which is very elaborately answered here. Patching your devices, we'll be talking of it, how you should patch your devices, how you should be careful about it. Why the backups are must for you, and we will talk about the passwords. We talk about the two-factor authentication, very important in today's transactions which we are conducting. Then we talk of the internet safety, privacy concerns, and the phone scam, and also I'll talk of the COVID time cyber attacks which are happening every day. Right now, this is one question which I get from everyone. Why should be the attacker interested in me? Right? And you say, I don't have anything to give, but why should the attacker be interested in me? Even you may be asking while I'm speaking, oh, this not for me. That really doesn't make make great sense to me as cybersecurity. But then, why should I be talking of it? But no, it's a concern to you, and it's really a matter of thing that you have to be bothered about. Okay, because you are exactly what the attacker wants. Right? He wants your credit card information. He wants your financial data. He wants your password and user ID of your bank accounts. He is bothered about your medical data, your prescriptions, your insurance details, to do the identity fraud. Okay. Then he wants your computer resources. You may be thinking, that's okay, but your computer resource also is important. And to tell you, you may not be knowing, while you're working on your computer, you may be giving your computing power to a hacker who are using it for mining bitcoins. Okay, and that's called crypto mining. Right? So practically crypto mining is, in simple terms, is for mining you require computing power, and the hackers try to use nefarious ways to mine, and they take power from different people across the world, different computing powers of different computers across the world to mine it. Okay. Then is the ransomware, which I told you how the ransomware comes. We'll discuss about it. Your computer is also for the advertising. While I'll tell you, advertising is, every one of you would have noticed it while you're browsing a site of Flipkart or Amazon or Myntra for that matter, right? And immediately, whenever you're there in any of the the normal browsing, you see the same kind of ads coming to you. Have you ever noticed, or even when you go back to the Facebook or your LinkedIn or your Twitter, have you ever noticed you are getting on the the browser? Okay, that is the point of concern. Most of the social media sites are fingerprinting you. They're sniffing your data. Okay, and they're using that data to using the data and selling it to the advertising companies. And those advertising companies are then putting their data onto the social media sites back. It's a vicious circle. Okay, so be very careful whatever you are posting on the social media. So we'll be touching upon this aspect also, in more detail. Then is your email credentials. That's what is very important. Earlier, you were kind of very chary about giving your numbers, but mobile numbers in particular. But today, anybody asks you your email ID, you're the first one to say, okay, take my email ID and give it. But if he's a hacker, right, he's more bothered about your email credentials, right? What he'll do that email for? He'll use the email for sending spams. He can access your email ID. He can break through the password and get into it, okay, and use it for his own good. And you will lose that, email account. So practically, if you look at, you are equally very important for the hacker to hack you. So what are the ways to protect yourself? So some of the ways which are there, I'll just cover them up one by one. One is the backup, right? And just to ask you all, how many of you do take backup of your work, maybe a personal laptop or your office laptop, which is there? Okay, just think of it. If you're doing it, good. If you're not doing it, it's a real point of concern to take a backup. And no level of protection is perfect, for that matter. And you have to have a frequent backup of the data, right? While I spoke of the ransomware, only backup can guarantee you, as an individual, to be, safeguarded from any ransomware. Otherwise, if a ransomware hits your machine, you don't have a backup, everything is gone, right? And what you have to ensure is that whatever backup media is there, you should not connect it to your computer or your machine all times. It should be separate, right? And if you have a backup, you need to test it also. It's not that you took up a backup and half of the files have gone, so you may see that the backup is not completely there, right? So one of the studies which showed that 35% of users had never backed up their systems at all. Okay, 20% that backed up yearly, and 14% backed up monthly, and only 6% backed up daily. And just check on yourself as to which bucket you fall in, right? Had it been a smaller group, I would have asked you, but since it's a larger group, it will be difficult to, take a feedback from you. But then definitely, just check on which bucket are you in for the backups. If you're not taking it, please take it immediately. Okay. And why the updates are essential to the security? You have to understand, because what was secure yesterday may not be secure today. Your machine cannot be thought to be secure each minute, and new software vulnerabilities are found every day, and that's why your system becomes vulnerable. It's more vulnerable to all the threats or the cyber attacks. And what we are seeing is, like I told you, there are 3.2 million, sorry, 3.2 billion, in fact, malwares which came up, right? And if you look at the number, it's 360,000 new malwares released every day. So nothing is set and forget. So it's a live situation, the problem which is ongoing. So you have to ensure that you have to take the backup on a regular basis, right? And what you should do secondly is keep your systems up to date, whether using Microsoft Windows, Apple Mac OS, or Linux, right? Keep your operating system up to date. So most of the people, you may be knowing that Windows 7 is already end of life, January 2020. So there's no, security patches which are going to be there. But ensure that whatever system you have it, every, the fortnight, there's an update which comes from the Microsoft. Do that update. Then you have the, in case you have antiviruses, because most of the machines definitely don't have antiviruses as well. So update those definitions on a regular basis to ensure that the protection against the latest threats takes place. So you're secured against all those threats. So you may use any of the antiviruses which are commonly available. Even you can use the Windows. They have the Windows Defender itself. It's got a lot of capabilities, so you can use that. You can use Kaspersky, Avast or McAfee, the Symantec, Norton. So there are different flavors of antiviruses which are available. You can use that, but the key is update them with all the definitions time to time. Most importantly, your browser now, which you use every day, right? your portal to the internet. You may be using Chrome, you may be using Firefox, Opera, or Edge, Safari, update them. Because what happens, hackers are always looking for vulnerabilities in this, browser, or any of the browsers for that matter, right? Internet Explorer, generally I don't recommend because it's got lots of vulnerabilities in itself. So it's a big no-no at times. And if you have kind of a very secure browser, I'll recommend there's a browser called Brave, B-R-A-V-E. So use that. But there's a challenge with all these browsers which are there. You need to update them on a regular basis. Coming to your mobile devices, right? Always update your mobile devices with the latest patches. Ensure that you update all the definitions, you update the security patches, you update the apps which are coming up, right? Then comes your, Alexa, your Google Home, your, doorbells, your surveillance systems, your light bulbs, your locks, your pet feeder, your heat monitor, right? And this list keeps on going on and on. Okay. So whatever are the updates which you keep getting, right? Update them so that those vulnerabilities which are there, they have been looked after, right? And your systems don't get hacked by the hacker. Here I would ask you, one question again, that how many of you do have smart TVs in the house? If you have smart TVs in the house, be very careful. Try to put a tape on the camera which is on the top of it, right? So put a black tape so that even any hacker tries to hack into your smart TV, right? He doesn't get into it. Second is your Alexa, your Google Home. A point of concern here, like all of you may be using it, but if you're not using Alexa or Google Home at time, switch it off. Because when you're not using Alexa and Google Home, they are practically, monitoring the base level noise of your house. They're trying to, see what's happening in the house, and they'll respond back in the same manner the way you talk. So they are intelligent devices. Okay, so they will be taking the inputs of what's happening around. So be very careful because they're all AI powered. They have the machine learning into it. So they try to get what's there in the environment. Similarly, it goes with the Siri. It creates the profile of a person based on the sleep pattern or the way he snores. So be very careful of all these devices whenever using. I'm not scaring you anyone, but these devices are a point of concern. Even CCTV cameras, for that matter, I've missed it out. There are softwares which can get into your house or the CCTV cameras from anywhere in the world if you're not having a proper password. Okay, change the passwords, and the app which you're using for monitoring the CCTV camera, ensure that it is not a malware. Okay. Coming on to the passwords, this password is a point which we talk of more oftenly, and we try to say that my password is secure. So anybody you ask, the first impression is that my password is very secure. It's nothing to do, nothing is going to go wrong. But then most of the time, the attacks start from the hack of the password. Okay, so keep your password secure. Keep it on a in a secure location. Don't use papers or sticky notes and paste it on the side of the bed or your office board. Don't do that. Don't store passwords in clear text on computer, because in the form of the Word or Excel file, because those files can also be read through by the hacker. There are certain applications which you can use it for the password. So these are the application called LastPass, KeepPass, OnePassword. So these are pretty okay application to use. You can use these applications for securing your passwords, right? And the benefits of the password managers are that you're able to have a single password to remember all the other passwords. Okay, and it's an encrypted storage of passwords, and you can sync between your laptop, mobile, and the desktop. But the question is, it is secure till the time the site last pass, key pass, and one pass are secure. If they're hacked, your password also goes. So it's a point of concern. But you can still try it. It's good to use at times, because one can't really have different kind of passwords for different sites and keep it. So some of the password tips which you can use it. Avoid using items that can be associated with you, right? Uh, Such as your address, your child name, your phone numbers, your birthdays, your pet names, sports items. That's the most common thing which you're using. So avoid them, right? And do have separate passwords for every account. Okay, and it's all possible with the password manager, like the one which I told you. And it generates auto-generated passwords which are unmemorable. So you can use that application, but keep a store of it. You can uh, keep a printout and put in a lock and key and safeguard it that way. And one of the studies which happened about the passwords, it was like 69% of the people shared passwords with colleagues. Okay, 95% passwords were shared with household, because everybody knows the password of your spouse or sibling. 59% passwords for all one account. Okay, and 86% passwords are too simple to judge. So just imagine we are in which bucket again. Take a call for yourself and see where you are, and if you need to have a different password, and how you need to identify yourself in this password management. One suggestion is that have a passphrase instead of the password. At least have 12 characters, and maximum you can go up to 15 characters, because as the length keeps increasing, it's more complex to break the password. And one of the bad password with most of the guys is like password like this. Okay, and a great password can be almost 24 characters, passphrase. And what I recommend is have a combination of alphanumeric. That means have normal running capital with a capital with running letters, with have that, and numbers also. So have that as your complete password. Okay, so that will safeguard you against any hacker trying to do password spraying and try to judge your password. So that's how you have to be. And 25 passwords by rank and year, you can just see which were the passwords which were most easy one to break, right? And my submission is that if you have any one of these combinations, kindly change it. Okay, and you just see it 2017, 18, 19, 20, similar kind of slide will come up. So these are the kind of passwords which I've been figuring out, top 25, which are the simplest passwords. Most of the people are using it, right? And what happened was, in the month of May or June first week, some of the hackers have released almost 15 billion passwords and email combinations, out of which only 5 billion combinations were unique. The rest all were all safe. So you can just imagine how people reuse the passwords altogether. Coming on to the two-factor authentication, and most of us are using two-factor authentication for our bank usage. Whenever you are doing a transactions, you definitely get a OTP which is there, and based on that, it gets that applications get authenticated or user gets authenticated. So wherever possible, apply this two-factor authentication. And this is quite important to authenticate you, because it gives the hacker a first level of, kind of uh, thing that he cannot actually get into your SIM card or send a OTP to your number and then identify himself, right? So use this feature which is there, and you can get the OTPs through SMS, you can get the OTPs through emails, you can get the OTPs through phone calls, snail mail, even phone pop-up. So you can use these kind of features to, use the facility of OTP and two-factor authentication. It's a pretty good method of authenticating any user. There are applications which are available. The application is Google Authenticator. If you can download, you can use it. Or there's another application which is called Authy. And you can use this kind of application to generate a OTP in your phone itself, right? So my point of telling you is that you are safe till the time you don't click on a link and you land up into trouble. So the advice is, first verify, right? You should verify the authenticity of the mail. You should verify, who has sent you that message. You should also check on your social media, who sends you a request for that matter, a friend request or a tag, or even the post which has been done, or a SMS. You are getting some of the SMSs which have got a link, and the moment you do a link, there is nothing you can do about it. It goes to a page and activates. Okay, so they are all scripts which have been written, right? And you lose all those details immediately. So verify the link or the message what you're getting. The best way is to hover over the link, and you will come to know, what's the most of the details which are there. Though in SMS you cannot find out, but then other things on the net you can find out if the moment you hover. Okay. If the site is not familiar to you, don't click it. If it is skeptical about that, it's not from my friends, don't click on that. And if you don't recognize it, don't click on it. And the moment you click on it, it should be only after this verify, hover, and snake. Okay. And once you've done that, that's the point where you should be very sure that what you're clicking is right, and you are not falling into the phishing trap of a hacker, right? So between you and a hacker is only a one click, just remember. And it's easy to remember, like I told you, that the moment you click on any of the hyperlink, you will come to know the email address or the strange wording which is there, or unexpected mail. So you can just check on when you get an email, like this in your email box which is there, right? So this is the kind of text which comes in, and you know that it's taking you to some other site. Just check on whether you are expecting this email, whether this email is okay, whether the name is okay, it's not from your friend, right? So you have to just weigh all those things before clicking. Similarly, this on the SMS, you get links like this. It says, you got a FedEx courier. Today, most of the things in India is like you get a message from a Paytm, which is practically some of the hackers who tell you that your Paytm authentication has expired. You click on the link for doing the authentication, and once you do it, you land up into trouble. Okay, so just be very sure you don't click on these kind of links, because if it is not from an authorized domain or not from an authorized user, don't click on the links in the SMS. Okay, and what I told you, hover. Okay, so this is what you get while you hover on any link. So moment you hover, the link is treetop security, but it's going to another link called evil.com. So evil.com is a phishing link. It's not the link which is of from an authorized user or a company. So that is what you have to be very careful. And don't click on all these kind of links. Something which is more concerning today is that you get shortened links, maybe on a social media or emails, and they look like this, right? They are a shortened link, and these links are practically just 15 characters, but you don't know whether this link is a kind of authenticated link or it's a spurious link. And what you need to do is, if you're not very sure of what this link is all about, there's a site called linkexpander.com. Go there, put your link, and unexpand or uncover the URL which it is. So you come to know whether this link is malicious or the valid link. Similarly, now is the time when income tax returns are going to be filed, so you'll get a lot of mails from income tax it.com and all. So be very careful what kind of mails you get. Similarly, when you have Amazon sale, so you start getting alerts from Amazon kind of thing. But if you hover on those links, practically you come to know that it is not the link from Amazon itself. It's a link which is from somewhere else. It's from a kind of a spurious link altogether. Okay, so you have to be careful. And all these things have one thing in common. They show a sense of urgency. They will already tell you 4 hours, 6 hours, just click it. You're going to get a reward, or you're going to get discounts, or some coupons, or available for you. So those kind of things are there. And just be very sure that more email attacks are through the emails what you get in your mailboxes. So 92% of the malware are delivered by the email attacks. Okay, and what the hackers are doing is, the 81% of breaches involve weak or the stolen credentials. If you're putting a weak password, a hacker can easily break and get into your email account. Or he knows that this is the kind of user who's there through the social engineering, and he starts sending you spams, right? So he will try to target you. So be very careful of all those things. This is the dictionary definition of phishing, because most of us do forget about what's the phishing definition. So phishing is primarily an attempt to trick someone into giving information over the internet or by email that would allow someone else to take money from them. For example, by taking money out of their bank account. So, like my initial part of my talk, when I told that the bank site phishing attacks are very common. So a spurious looking, same looking bank site would come up, and it will ask you to put in the credentials, okay, user ID, password. And once you put in that user ID, passwords, you end up losing that credentials, and a hacker can take control of your account and do whatever he wants. And what you have to be more concerned is that you're getting almost 20 phishing mails per day in your email account, right? So you have to have a kind of a robust security which should be there. You should put on the spam filter in your mailbox and take care of it. So phishing mails have increased last couple of months, and something in particular, if you take it to the COVID time, the phishing have increased 600% altogether, right? And there are almost 18 million mails which are only phishing mails every day, which are coming to the Gmail. So that's the kind of phishing mail attacks which have increased last couple of months. And what's a phishing mail? Just I'll just go over the example so that you understand it. You get an email which is very authentic looking email from a kind of very authentic looking address, and it says you to click on this particular link. But if you see, all the text which is there is a very suspicious text. It's not a text which you generally get in your email. So you have to be very careful when you are reading through the emails. Okay, the language of the phishing mail attacker. So don't click on everything. So when you check on, you know, the text which is there, the link which actually takes you, it's taking you to a spurious link altogether. Okay, so once you click on that link, right, so it will take you to a different site where it will try to skim your data, it will try to steal your data, and that's a bait for you. So be very careful whenever you get an email from anyone for that matter, right? If it is not a very solicited mail which you're not expecting, don't open it. And most of the hackers today, they use two attachments. One is your Microsoft Office, a document maybe, and it will say it's a CV or it's a document which they want you to open. And what practically happens is the moment you open that document, it will, start functioning at the back end and install a malware. Second, he may send you a PDF. Even lots of attacks are getting, activated through the PDF in your email. So any attachment coming to you from not a known person or not a known employee of yours, don't even open that up. Right? And this is how it looks. Okay, they're very authentic looking, but they're all a kind of attacks which are being launched to you. So this is the kind of thing which will happen, that all the macros have been disabled. Disable all the macros. Macros means they're the auto run files which are there. So don't activate them on your machines. And any application or any file asking for that permission to execute the macro runs, don't give it. So that's what is very important while you're handling all the email attachments for that matter. Okay, and some of the email scams which are happening very actively, it's that you may get a mail from a CEO to the CFO that release 5 lakh rupees to the customer, and when you are trying to send it to a confirmation to the CEO, practically it is going to the hacker, it's not going to the CEO. Okay, and CFO takes a decision, he does the payment to the vendor, and finally when he speaks to the CEO, we find that the CEO never gave a direction. You may be thinking that it's a hypothetical. No, it's happening, and it's happened number of times. Okay, so there's an email spoof attacks which are happening where they impersonate themselves as CEO using the spear phishing attack, and these attacks are really very prudent, very much specific, and people do fall into these kind of traps, and they really have a sense of urgency when they're doing it. And a person who's been targeted practically doesn't know what's really happening, and he over exuberance, in sense of urgency, he tries to do that particular commits that particular fault. That is what is practically happening today, right? And what's scammers' favorite? It's the healthcare scares which are there, their election time which are there, their protest time which are there. So they try to take advantage of all these situations. They take advantage of the orders and the delivery issue, and it's very much happening in India too. Order cancelled or order shifted or tax issues. So those are the kind of things which really are happening. And to tell you, there's a place called Jamtara where the people are all illiterate, but they are expert in carrying out the hack attacks in India. Okay, there's a similar place, second place which has come up. It's on the tri-junction of UP, Haryana, and Rajasthan. Again, totally illiterate people gained expertise in hacking, and they're doing all these hack attacks every day. And most of the people are, getting targeted to it. And you'll be surprised the kind of methodologies they have been using. They're exploiting the gaps in UPI. They're trying to use the Google Pay kind of thing, attacks which are there. They're trying to exploit the Paytm vulnerabilities there. So they are very expert in all these things. So be very careful on these kind of scams which are happening, right? So this is what is the phone scam which I'm trying to tell, right? So be very careful of all these scam attacks, maybe a robocall or a bank, a credit card company, where they're trying to tell you that change your OTP, ask for your credit card number, your insurance details, your medical details. So those are the kind of things which are very commonly happening. Be very careful of giving any detail to any scamster who's coming up. And the only thing which is there is that they have a sense of urgency. They purposefully confuse people, okay, and they create panic, and they want to do everything into minutes and hours, and generally in India also what they try to do is they try to tell a person to download anywhere and for the remote controlling, okay, and after that he's able to take the mobile phone remotely and do whatever he wants to do, and he also is able to see all the clicks what you're doing, right, whatever the keypads what you're punching. So that's how they are very active. We have to guard against them. So general tips and for the privacy are, I'll just tell you, people who are using USB drives, be very careful. Don't connect any unauthorized media to your laptops, your devices today, because they can have malware, okay, and have a storage which is external drives. Keep it on the external drives and safeguard your data, or on a SD card. So keep them on those kind of platforms. Use encryption, okay. That's what is the kind of a mantra for us today to protect our data. Encrypt your hard disks, right? You can encrypt the complete folders and keep it, okay. You can safeguard data then only, otherwise anybody can use in case you use that hard disk or pen drive, anybody can use it, okay. Now when you're getting onto the browser, the internet, only use HTTPS. Don't use HTTP links. Be very careful on that. And for the wireless, I can tell you, watch for it today also. Most of us were using wireless Wi-Fi. Most of us are using unencrypted Wi-Fi, okay, or we have not changed the passwords on that, so they're all insecure. So what you need to use is use a Wi-Fi with WPA2 encryptions and then only use it, okay. Otherwise you're vulnerable to any kind of attacks which are there, right? And while I told you to safeguard your disk, you have in Microsoft Windows itself a software called BitBlocker. You can use it for locking all your files, encrypting all your files, or for the Mac OS you can use it the file vault. So that's the kind of tools which you can use it to safeguard your data, right? Some of the tips for the internet safety, to tell you one, use the HTTPS, which I already told you. Use ad blockers on the Google Chrome. If you're using Google Chrome, download a software called ad blocker, okay, so that you don't get the advertisements onto it, right? And why I'm telling you you should not get the advertisements, because most of the advertisements do have malware which is being piggybacking onto that particular file, okay. So avoid using that. Most of us while traveling are like go to the airport, and the minute we find a free Wi-Fi, or in Starbucks, the minute we find a free Wi-Fi, we ask for the passwords and connect on to those Wi-Fis. It's a big no-no. Why? Because the moment you try to do that, the hacker can take control of your machine sitting in the remote corner and see on, because what he'll do is he'll create a similar Wi-Fi name, okay, airport Wi-Fi name, and create it, and you don't know whether you're logging on to a spurious Wi-Fi or the original Wi-Fi, right? So be very careful on when you're logging on to the Wi-Fi's on the airports, or Starbucks, or anywhere for that matter. That's the kind of thing which you have to be very careful on. Never try to charge your mobile phones using the USB while on the airports. That's called the crypto jacking. The crypto jacking is, the moment you put your USB into that ports or jacks, I can take or juice out all your data using different algorithms. You don't know the port which is there is a charging port, or there's a port where it's trying to steal data. So you have to be taking note of all those kind of things, right? Something on the internet policy privacy. This is a very longish topic, but I'll try to cover up in a smallest possible time frame. What is there to tell you is that whatever you're posting on internet today, it's all getting sold, right? You as an individual have got 5,000 data points which all the social media companies are looking in for, okay? And what they try to do is, whatever you're posting on the internet, whatever you're putting on the social media platform, they analyze the complete data. They give it to the advertisement agencies. Advertising agencies put back those kind of videos, audios, clips, photographs to you based on your interest, your taste. And you may be thinking, wow, it's so great. It's not that. All the companies, especially the social media companies, are churning billions of dollars based on your data itself. And that's why it's called data as a new gold. Why it was gold? Because or everybody says it's a new oil, or different terminology. It's an oxygen, but it's a gold. Why? It says value, and the value is by all the social media platforms. That is what they're selling, and we have to be very careful. Your data is valuable, so be very careful whatever your data is. They create a predictive analytics of you. They create a data analytics of you. They are using AI on you, and you are not knowing anything. To tell you a case in point, 1st of February, Facebook changed its policies. The policies were that, even if you're not using a Facebook app, it will be able to find out what applications which you're using in the backend, okay? And what are you doing while you are not on the Facebook? That's a real point of concern, okay? And if you look at the data which they collect when you're not working on that Facebook, they're collecting even your bank application details. Did you permit them? Answer is no, but the answer is yes. Why? Because you just clicked on the end user license policy when we were downloading the Facebook. Rightly so, everybody does it, okay? And that's how they do it. So be very careful. You can go to the Facebook, go to the privacy settings of the Facebook, change it that no data will be collected, not to be tracked, right? The other thing which I want to tell you, all your Google Chrome or even your normal site which you're going through, they are fingerprinting. There's a terminology called fingerprinting. Fingerprinting means I analyze you, what is your mobile, what's your laptop, where are you clicking, what applications you used, how much time did you spend on the page, what are the hot points on the web page, what is the heat map of your page, how you're using it. I'm getting a complete profile and keeping it. And this is what is Google doing, Chrome doing. Facebook doing? You know, they are even bothered even when you're rested the mouse on the side, and how much time, right? So internet privacy has become a myth. We are no more a user of any social media. Okay, even when you're using all your applications, your mobile phones, be very careful whatever apps which you're downloading, right? Yesterday only I was just reading through, and I've written an article on an app called BlackRock and others. The mobile applications are trying to take your data away in a very big manner. There were almost 1700 applications which were deleted from Google Chrome, well, sorry, Google Play Store in January. They deleted another 11 just 15 days back. There's an app called Joker malware. There's a malware called Joker malware, which actually comes with all your applications like what? Alarm, your wallpaper, your games, your music. These are the kind of apps which are there, people download. And the moment you download, they're able to take your complete data, your complete profile, your GPS location, your contact details. Even, just I forgot, your Facebook, you'll be surprised. Your app steals your data of your contacts. Okay, it takes your call records, everything. So do you want them to take it? The answer is a big no. So adjust your privacy settings in all these applications. Okay, never put your photographs or check-in location when you're putting on the social media. Why? Because like I told you, the hackers are very intelligent today, and what they're looking for is creating a profile. So what they do is they send you a spear phishing mail while you're on holiday, and they can launch an attack on you, and you may lose data, you may lose money, you may lose a lot of things. Sky is the limit for this today, right? Though we talk of it's in a virtual term, but sky is the limit. And this is what I was trying to tell you, that you are no more a customer of any of the social media. You are a product, and while I say, and why I say you are a product, you are barcoded and you are priced. The more data which you give them, the more valuable you are, right? And you'll get a mail like, you're the most valuable customer to us. Why? Because you have given your best of the data to them, and that is what is making them richer. And you are losing your data. You're infringing. They're infringing into your privacy. They're infringing into your private space. So be very careful of using all the social media, right? Now, this is what I was trying to say, that we are all connected in the mobile world, right? And practically the complete perimeter is disappeared. So you have different applications which are coming up, whether it's a WhatsApp, your Skype, your Zoom, your Google Chrome, all those things. And maximum of traffic is on the mobile. While I spoke of on the Google Chrome, on the laptop, mobile is equally vulnerable, right? And when I say you're vulnerable, this is what I was trying to tell you, that the hackers try to put the malicious codes in your mobile phone, right? And try to take the data of your bank, your credentials, your transactions, your contacts. That's important. Okay. And this is a new kind of paradigm for the hackers to hack you. Okay. So while we always been talking of the security on the laptops, your internet, mobile phones have become equally challenging and to secure you. And to ask you one thing, how many of you have got mobile phone antivirus in your systems? The answer would be a big no, right? And that is where you have to be very careful about it. My suggestion is that go in for a antivirus if possible and for it, right? And these are some of the mobile security hygiene which are recommended. Don't connect to the public Wi-Fi networks. Keep your OS up to date. Be wary of permissions you grant to apps you install. So don't just install all the applications. If an application doesn't require, your location, your GPS, your SMS, your disk, your storage, why it's trying to do it, right? Application like a backgrounds kind of application asking for all these details, you can straight away delete it because it's trying to take more than what is required, right? Enable the remote clock and data wipe for mobile devices, because if you get mobile devices lost, so you can track it and you can wipe the data and it doesn't fall in anybody's hand. Avoid answering unsolicited calls or even block them. That's important, right? When browsing, use only websites which are secured with SSL, also on the mobile. So like I told you, while you're on a laptop, your mobile security is equally very important today. And download applications only from the official app store. Just don't go on downloading any application which is there, and install a mobile security application on your mobile, right? So these are the kind of things which you should do. So I will stop here, and because we are, I think, going to be overshooting the time. But to tell you, to the last, I'll just go on to my last slide. And
time is not an issue. If you can, we would love it if you can cover up the whatever is left in another 5, 7, 10 minutes, because we are loving it. This is very much needed. This is much needed.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. I don't have issue on myself. I don't have a problem with.
No, I'm saying these are beautiful things, sir. You're shaking. So let's keep it max 10 minutes. Would we be able to cover up in another?
Yeah, I can do that.
Perfect.
So I just want to tell you the scenario. This I told you what was the cybersecurity about. Just want to cover up on the pandemic, what has happened and how it's going. I'll just flip the slides faster so that you get a feel of what I'm trying to talk about. Okay, just what happened was, when in the month of March, most of the organizations had never tested their business continuity plans. Even the smaller organization, bigger organization, anybody for that matter, we were all stumbled by this, and this is a fact. Okay, we were not ready for the transition and run businesses from home. We never thought of it. And the traditional system which are there were never ported to the cloud, because we are all working from on-prem location, and to support the remote workers we never thought of. And now if you put it from the education perspective, you didn't do all these three part of it ahead on top of my slide, right? Similarly, employee attendance, you never thought of it. How to measure the productivity of your students, yourself, your staff? How are you going to do that? Your third-party customers, your customers were a challenge with limited capacity. You never knew what to do. And the big issue was how to sustain culture and manage pandemic stress, right? So these are the kind of very specific challenges which every one of us face. And to take it further, I'll be moving a bit faster so that I give you a feel of it. While this was happening, cyber criminals were developing and boosting their attacks at alarming pace. They were like a war on today, and exploiting the fear and uncertainty caused by unstable social and economic situation created by COVID-19. And this is what is a war-like situation. They are exploiting today. Even today, they are exploiting the situation. While we are talking, believe you me, there's some major attack or ransomware attack which is happening. Okay. And to tell you, I'll just cover up the number of attacks during COVID time increased multifold. It's mind-boggling if you look at it. They were not leaving even the hospitals for that matter. Okay, and they were getting into the kind of attacks. They targeted loan holders, contacting on the pretext of postponing of EMI payments also, right? And the problem was that while this was happening, all the IT guys were facing a problem of managing the complete network as to how do we manage it. They were not getting a visibility of their servers, their computers, their devices, and it was making everybody more vulnerable. And especially to tell you, while everybody moved from home, your data is in office. Now giving access to your data, that's a very, very valuable data. How do I give it? I don't have VPNs, the virtual private networks. It's again a problem. While everybody was working from home, they had insecure Wi-Fi's. They didn't have antiviruses in the machine, right? And hackers had a ball of a time with all this, and it's put everybody into a big problem. And not only this, cyber criminals and nation state actors. Nation state actors mean the actors who are more interested in launching attack on the power grid, on the National Highway Authority of India, on the banks, on the railway track, signaling tracks which were there in India, the railway signaling. Okay, so they're all busy doing that, right? And to put it all, the fake news and the misinformation also has started popping up in equal proportion and creating, kind of unrest. If you look at the initial days of the COVID, you really had a problem. You were looking for information. You are being put across to a fake information or a fake data. The fake news was up. The misinformation was up. The fraudulent sales were up. People started selling, PPE kits, your masks, and all those things kept on happening. Very, very precarious situation. And healthcare authorities were becoming victims, right? And like I told you, I'll go on to this slide. If you look at it, this is called a phishing. This is a number of kind of the sites which have got registered in the month of February, May to March. This is mind-boggling. And these sites, when I'm telling you, number of 1 lakh plus is not very great. But these all sites registered are for the name of COVID update, COVID, health, and most of them were all phishing sites. That means they were all fake sites. That was a point of concern, right? So this happened March, April, quite a bit. These are the kind of sites which were there, and a lot of sites were being brought down by the different agencies who are there world across. And to give you, like I told you, the people are looking in for a real-time infection maps. Most of the time, what was happening was, this was a legitimate map, and this is a fake map which you are clicking on most of the time. And moment you are clicking on this kind of map, and people have landed up into a problem, the malware was getting, injected, and it was a cryptocurrency theft. It was a ransomware, and it was sold on the Russian forum hack for $100 only, and people lost a lot of money, because of this particular Azure attack, ransomware and the malware, and it was able to take a lot of data of people, right? So just imagine the situation. People are in panic mode, and we are having all these attacks also happening. And these are the kind of attacks, ransomwares, which are more prevalent in last 3 to 4 months. All of them different way of working, different attack patterns, and all as a ransomware, they've been able to get a lot of money from different companies, right? That's how they've been in the last couple of months, right? Then these are the phishing attacks, which I already brought out. People said that you'll get a Netflix account for 3 months, and thereafter, it made it click. And the moment you click on those, Netflix account, you lost your Facebook. It will tell you to, put in your Facebook credentials. And the moment you put the Facebook credential, it's a phishing site, and you end up losing credentials. So that's the kind of thing which were happening all across. Even PM Care Fund was not left behind. If you remember, the day PM Care Fund was released, we found a similar PM Care Fund name, all fake UPI IDs were created. Now, a person like you and me will not even know which is the original, ID. But though the government did a good job, they immediately brought down all the fake IDs, but it was there, and people really were in a panic. So these all do create panic, right? And these are the kind of mails which I already told you. This is the kind of links which you get for you joining the meetings, and you practically don't know whether this links are original or fake, and you may land up into the phishing attack. Similarly, you may get an email from your office saying that we need to reconsider your work from home. We need to reauthorize you. You have to fill the form, and the moment you fill the form, practically it's a phishing attack. And the moment you fill the form, it is taking to the phishing site. So these are the kind of things which were all seen. Then we saw an app called Coronavirus Update app. Lots of people downloaded, thinking that this is an app which is authentic. But the moment this app was downloaded, it was able to take all your data, and the kind of data which it was taking was mind-boggling. Whether it's WhatsApp, your Telegram, your Facebook, Prima messages, everything. It was able to take your voice notes, contacts, accounts, call logs, location, your SMI, IMSI number, your IMI number, your SSID number, Wi-Fi speed, name a thing which was there, and it was able to take the complete data out. Yeah, and we always thought that this is a Corona update app. While I spoke of the nation-state actors, they also jumped into the bandwagon, right? Chinese APTs are active. There are different names called, Vicious Panda, Mustang Panda. North Korean APTs are called the advanced persistent threat. They're a kind of very specific malware, and they target, specific critical infrastructures like power grid, your water grid, your rail network, your airlines. That's what they do. Russian APTs were active. Pakistani APTs were active, right? And we've seen a lot of attacks which are happening from all these APTs in the last couple of months. So they are also on the kind of spree of the COVID-19, right? And these are some of the strategic and tactical level points. I will not elaborate on these, but then I had brought out as a business leader, as an organization, what plans you can make to overcome the situation what you're in today, whether it's a risk management plan, your disaster recovery plan, your instant response plan, all those things, your cyber resiliency, all those things which you have to test while you're all working from home. And at a tactical level, what all you should do to be safe and to secure the complete data of your company, your organization, and be working in this kind of environment. And these are some of the good practices which are there, where I suggested you use two-factor authentication or a multi-factor authentication, go in for a data backup, go in for a DLP services, right, and draft a home working policy. So all those things are available. We can do it. Similarly, you have when you're working from home, this is what you should try and follow to safeguard yourself. At the first level is level 1. You do a multi-factor authentication, then use a SSL VPN. Then you get on to, for the internet, use the web and DNS security. Then on the 4th level, I have marked it as, there's the 4th. So use the DLP, right? There's a data leakage prevention. Then is using the cloud, right? Also using your antivirus and EDRs, your data transport from your house to your users and your endpoints, have an encrypted email, and using a mobile device management. So there are different sets of combinations which you can use to secure yourself, while you're working from home, and this is going to continue like this. So let's work on all those things to safeguard the data, safeguard users, and you know, uh, be work from the home in a very secure manner. So with this, I have come to the end of my talk. And as a parting shot, I will say that be cyber safe, be cyber citizen, as a cyber citizen, and whatever we are doing, be secure. So there are a couple of questions. I think we can take that on.
Yes, sir. Yes, please take the question answers, please. Our dear, all the teachers, faculty members, whoever are here, if they have any questions, please either you can write in the chat, or we are assigning the rights one by one. You can unmute yourself and ask the questions. And in the meanwhile, I'm checking chat, sir, if someone has asked the questions in the chat.
So you can stop share also. And,
yes, that would be
Yeah,
better.
I'll stop that here.
Yeah, anyone who has questions even from the first and second session can ask it and put it further.
Okay, so we'll just start taking the questions one by one.
Hanji, we have the questions here. How this Anupriya Agarwal from Jain Happy School asking, how come our known mails move to spams in Gmail?
So practically, if the filters in the email, because you're using some of the email words, the words in the email which are not as per the Gmail policy, so they go into the spam mail. So the words have to be very specifically chosen while you're writing the mail. So a mail like crime or something, those words are, or unethical words if you're using, your mail may land up into a spam mail. So it's a spam filter, or what you can do is you can reset the spam filter once and check it up. Your mails start coming back into your mailbox.
Great, sir. So there's a question by Salman, sir. As a teacher perspective, while we know that Zoom is declared not to be safe, and when they're using Zoom and telling parents to install these apps, some of them have denied to install it. How can we convince them, or shall we use other conference tool for them?
No, it's like this. As a matter of fact, earlier in the month of March, April, Zoom was a big no-no by even in Indian government, because it was told that it's a Chinese application. Subsequently, the CEO of Zoom has told that the data centers are in US, and it had a problem initially because it had a problem of the encryption, and the encryptions were not very secure, and anybody could do a Zoom bombing using any of the codes that were easily created. So now they have ensured that all the servers are not in China, number one. Secondly, whosoever is an authorized or a paid user, they are giving him a proper service. But if you are a user who's kind of free service, so they don't ensure any security on that. They don't ensure any encryption for those users. But if you're a paid user, then they ensure the encryption for you. So you can carry on with the Zoom. It's not a problem.
Great, sir. So there's a question by Mandeep Kaur Chabra. Will you please suggest any particular security app for smartphones?
So there are a couple of them, but what I can generally, I don't profess any software, but I am being using Sky, so it's pretty good. It's being safeguarding my data on the mobile phone, and there is also a Bitdefender. There are other apps which are there, but I've been using Sky for a number of years now. That's okay.
Great, sir. So there's a question by Sanjay Agrawal, sir. Which data wipe you suggest for mobiles?
So in Google itself, you have a feature, or if you're using a Samsung phone, you have a feature of data wipe. Even if you're using Sky, you have a data wipe. So if you log in with a Sky and you register yourself with the email ID, you can wipe the data remotely from any app, from anywhere, after proving your authentication or credibility.
Great, sir. I feel this question can be answered by any of our faculty. The question says, how can we educate the really old generation or those who are absolutely not tech savvy? So this is from teachers' point of view. They're asking how to mend with today's
Okay.
ways.
Okay.
So,
This is one thing very important. For the parents or the older generation, tell them not to click on any SMS which comes to them, because they do have smartphones with them, number one. Second is, don't pick up any unsolicited call or any call which is not from a known number. So they should have all the numbers or the calls from only the valid, known, or the relatives or the people who are they're dealing with. So the 2 points which are very important for them, it can safeguard them and give them a real good night's sleep at the end of the day.
and wow, wonderful,
It's, I would
Indrajit
like,
sir. And we would love to have, the thought process of Rajiv sir as well.
yeah, I was about to tell the same. So I wanted Rajiv sir also to, contribute on this. And I would repeat the question again. It is from a teacher's point of view also, sir, that how we can educate the really old generation, our senior teachers also, who are not at all tech savvy. So it is imperative to be tech savvy in this world for the educators.
Yeah, I think what we have to do.
मैं थप्पड़े तेरे मुंह पे
I
मारूंगी अगर
request
मुझे
each
मेरा
one
काम रुक गया
to
मैं
mute themselves and maintain the decorum of the Zoom auditorium. Yes, sir, please carry on.
So the idea is that, we have to just get away with the fear, first of all. Let me tell you, one doesn't have to be tech savvy beyond a point. There is some basic fear that you have to give away. In fact, while I was even talking, that fear of change, that, this is something very complex, this is something beyond me, this is something too difficult. There is nothing so difficult. Only point is that first get ready to learn. Get into that space where you see the new facts which we showed on that circle, of creativity, that you got to see that as new facts. Just get ready, first of all, mentally, that I can do it. Get away with that fear. And I don't think that these days technologies they are all menu driven. If you just apply your mind, because I've seen it with my own family members, very senior, my mother, my even grandmother. In fact, they kind of, have picked it up very fast. They are all menu driven apps. In fact, and the kind of, technology that we expect from people is not that they got to program or do coding, but they have to just use these technology equipments. And I think it just comes with some basic bit of practice. The biggest problem is not that they are not tech savvy. They are not tech savvy because they've never attempted to kind of, open themselves to learning. So I find that this is in fact more of a taboo, that, I can't do it, because you can't do it. And things, as we have seen, those changing value paradigms. And that's why I made a mention of those 5 of them, that, you got to think that world is not complex. It is simple. It is complex only to the point where I don't understand, or somebody has not told me, or I've not made an attempt to learn. So one can always learn. And my firm belief is that with some bit of reverse mentoring, maybe, yes, the juniors, the seniors, the kind of, they have to get together, the kind of people who are younger. In fact, there are more tech savvy. The digital natives will have to teach the digital immigrants like us, basically. And those of us who have kept ourselves abreast, just see Colonel Indrajit. I mean, he belongs to the generation where technology was, he is also a digital immigrant. But see how confident he is about it, in fact, and how much into it is. He's so far ahead of everybody else. It's just that learning bit that, when one starts to learn, and this starts with all of us, we have to just get away with that fear. So that's to answer the question, get away with that fear that I cannot do it. There's something difficult, something complex. It's not. The technology today is all menu driven. You just have to understand, it's just have to understand the grammar of it. That's all. And then you learn it very fast.
Wonderful, wonderful, sir. We are so blessed that we have such wonderful resource person, 2 of them. They both are, even I used to say this, sir, that I'm not a Google boy, that I'm not a Google generation. I'm born in the times when there was no Google, no internet. And when both of you are so ahead in technology, now you both are inspiring me to continue my learning. So thank you for being with us.
Great.
And do we have any more questions? Any more questions from
there are 2 questions, I think.
Yes,
there's one question
please,
from Sanjay Agarwal. He says, PhonePe and Paytm is rejecting my account automatically for transfer. Sanjay ji, I'll just tell you the best thing is delete the Paytm. If you want to delete it, go to the site. Deleting the app won't solve the purpose. Go to the site, deactivate the account because they give you a permission to deactivate the account of PhonePe and Paytm. So please do that. I think that is the best you are doing it. And if you write to the help, they also really work for those things. Secondly, your friend's news portal has got hacked with virus. What he should do is he should immediately do a vulnerability assessment and penetration testing of the site, because what happens is these kind of attacks are only done when there's a vulnerability in the website, and most of the, because there's a problem in the code, there'll be a lot of errors. So there are vulnerability assessment and penetration testing which are possible. You get it done. It's a very simple thing. You will get a report within a day or two, and you can safeguard your news portal, because that's important. Everybody must be trying to hack it. Yeah.
Great, Indrajit sir. So it's a last call to the entire faculty, all the academicians, entire our audience, that we have both the wonderful resource person, Mr. Rajiv Bhaduria and Colonel Indrajit Singh with us, and they are here open for Q&A. It's a last call. If you have any query, any curiosity, you are anxious about anything, and you still want to gain something out of them, it's really hard to get to two of these wonderful people, and today they are here for us. Make the most out of it. If you have any query, please feel free to ask to both of them. They both are here for us. Mr. Rajiv Bhaduria especially come back on our special request that kindly join us back, sir, for the Q&A session. So we are blessed. So both the wonderful people are with us.
Yeah. So there's one question from Neha Khanna, I think. How safe
Yes,
are
sir.
Google Slides and Sheets?
Yes.
So all the slides and sheets are safe till the time your password is safe. So you have to have a complex password to safeguard your account. Okay. Secondly, if I look at from my perspective, they are not safe because Google sifts through all your data. Okay. So it's a two sides of the coin. For you, it is safe. For me, it's being stolen by them.
Great, sir. Great. Wonderful. And Rajiv, sir, I have got one question from Pallavi ma'am on my WhatsApp. She's asking that as the world is continually changing, as you today mentioned, paradigm shift. So when world is continually changing, how shall they be moving forward with the, innovation in the same domain?
See, world is changing in which sense? Let's understand that. What is not changing? As I said, how and why is changing? So what in the sense that music remain music, hospital remains hospital, cameras remain cameras, so on and so forth. Those needs of human beings, they remain the same. So what is not changing? Why and how is changing? So innovation in the same domain means, what does this mean? It just means that domain is something that we kind of, have artificially segregated. In today's context, particularly in the field of education, that's the reason why one of the intelligence and the most important intelligence is transdisciplinary intelligence, which gives you that coalescence of learning one thing to the other and apply one knowledge here and the learning over there in some other context, which is more organic than mechanical. Because see, after all, domains were created to facilitate a simpler understanding of the whole, so that the whole was divided into, it's a reductionist method to understand a difficult or a complex organic situation whole. So the point is that, and we remain stuck to it, that, this is the same domain I have been taught. So the point is that as things are changing, all that we have to realize is that things are not changing sequentially for you to change gradually. The problem is with technology, which is disruptive and which is exponentially changing, is that parameters no longer change sequentially. They change simultaneously. So as I said, the magnitude and the complexity of change is enormous. Now, the point is that you may be in a particular domain for long. The idea is that we all have to come out of our comfort zone. Nobody has the comfort today to remain within the circle of your own domain. You got to be available with your domain, within your domain, as much as on the periphery of your domain where the interactions of other domains are taking place. So that is the new normal today. And that is important because, when robots are taking over jobs from human beings, which are predictable and programmable, if you continue to remain in the same domain. So it's not a matter of whether, how to do it. You have to do it. The point is that we have to now choose that, you remain on the periphery like the Japanese were, not the Swiss people. And the point is that you are aware of the new changes taking place. So gradually you adapt, upgrade, and modify, change yourself. If you just suddenly make yourself vulnerable for a sudden point where you have to suddenly innovate and create, that will become very difficult, almost impossible. So the idea today is that we don't have to say, how do we change? How and why is anyways changing. You have to adapt to it. You have to learn to be on the periphery of your domain so that you are a master of your domain. That's important because that is what has given you relevance. That's given you identity. That's given you kind of, strength of fact to being a professional or a person in whichever domain you are. But I think what needs to be done is that you remain available to the changes which are taking place outside your domain and how are they influencing your domain. So one has to be more connected to life outside, beyond your domain. That is the only route to kind of, stay connected and remain relevant. Otherwise, the biggest problem of tomorrow and this future that has arrived, as I said, is not that people would be exploited if they don't know less or they kind of, they don't know anything. They will become irrelevant. That is the game changer of the future. This technology, which is disruptive, and robotics, which is taking over, will make humans who have not adapted, upgraded themselves irrelevant. And that will be the biggest pain that humans will have to suffer. And therefore, we got to be very careful the fact that we remain relevant. We need to unlearn, relearn, and then learn. So this cycle is not there for any one of us. You can't just remain that I have done my chemistry, I've done my chemical engineering and remain a chemical engineer all my life and I'll earn out of that. Now, those days are gone. Even people at 60, 65 will have to continue to reinvent themselves, to continue to make themselves relevant. And therefore, this whole process of technological disruption is creating a situation where online continual learning, which means learning has to take place at every given point of time. Remember, one of the lines in the presentation was that, shortest distance between 2 points is no longer a straight line, but a learning curve. So that kind of domain, inquisitiveness, that curiosity, that whole idea to remain alert and remain relevant by unlearning, relearning, will have to be a continual lifelong process. We have to be all lifelong learners. So there's no choice. And we better adapt to it before we become irrelevant.
So wonderful. So well put together, sir.
Yeah, Nancy, there are 2-3 questions I think Parul and we should answer that.
Sure, sir.
I'll answer it quickly. So Rima Gogia has asked, please list some apps we can install in our computer, laptop, and mobile to save them from cyber attack. The answer is there's a browser like Chrome called Brave, B-R-A-V-E. Please write it down. So put that, install it. It's better than Chrome. It doesn't do a fingerprinting like Chrome does, right? And also, if you're using Chrome, then download ad blockers so that there are certain malwares or adwares which are not coming into your machine. So, that will safeguard you, number one. On the mobile, personally, please don't download, number one, any application which is not from an authorized source. So don't download games in particular. So those games do have viruses, a lot of them, because they are from unsolicited sources. Don't download them, right? So that is the thing. Second was Parul had asked that Dr. Chawla had spoken about online tutoring portals offering jobs. Are they safe? So please check on the source of those jobs, because that needs to be verified. Till the time it is not verified, one really can't say whether they are authenticated or not authenticated. Then there was a question from Salman Qureshi. How can we educate child with respect to ensuring safety? So there is practically, in fact, the MENTORx had conducted one of the very interesting talk on cyber citizenship, where we had discussed about bringing up a child and how a child faces the cyberbully and cyber stalking and what really happens to them. That the cyber citizenship is already there, I think, and Dr. Munish is the best person and can to conduct a session again for you. that was given by me, in fact, but it would be of interest to you all to listen to the cyber citizenship if required, right? I think that's all other questions.
Wonderful, wonderful. If now both the wonderful resource person, Colonel Indrajit, as well as Mr. Rajiv Bhaduria, if you allow me, shall we move towards the conclusion? Let me do it then. Just a sec, sir. Yes, I think you have received the notification. Yes. So if both of you allow, shall we move towards concluding the session for today?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you for being in sync with us. So guys, this brings our FDP to the conclusion. The teacher training, the faculty development program that began with the context setting on 8th of August and with 4 wonderful resource people over two days. Wow, wow, what a phenomenal journey. I don't know about others, sir, but I really want to share my heart out before we concluded that in these 2 days, I feel that I have got oceans and oceans of energy, and I need another 2 days to let this energy sink in with me. Whatever the information I've got from you, I really need both of your presentations. Rajiv sir is with us. Indrajit sir, I will borrow yours from you.
Yeah.
And we are definitely going to share it with all the people as well. And wow, what a marvelous work. In my entire life, I have been a speaker from past 5 years, have done maybe close to more than 1,000 keynotes, and already in touch with more than 1,000 speakers, guests, resource people. Trust me, I'm saying this from my core. I've never come across 2 people who have come so prepared as a resource person. So, people, they come in, okay, they're like, okay, we will go with the PPT, we will speak. Oh my God, but both of your presentations, Rajiv sir, yours looked like that, it is like a, infinite. I would say the term infinity. And the beauty of you was your slides were changing even quicker than you were speaking. Wow. And Indrajit sir, wow, what a deep, thorough research. I mean, I am amazed, and both of you have now inspired me that though I do thorough research on my subject matter whenever I go as a resource person or as a speaker, but now it's going to be even deeper from next time onwards. So thank you for being with us, both of you. You have been a remarkable and phenomenal for us. And though we are in the pandemic, we won't be able to do much. So, but here as a little token of love and appreciation from our side, here is, sir, we would like to honor you, Rajiv sir.
Thank you.
With a little token of, gesture and a gratitude from our side.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very sweet, all of you. That's right.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir, for accepting our token of gratitude. With my folded hands, I honor you. Thank you, sir. And then we have Colonel Indrajit. Thank you, Colonel Indrajit, for joining us and for always being with us and imparting, sharing your expertise with all of us. Thanks a lot, sir. With my folded hand, my soul honors your soul.
Thank you.
And with that note, now we have come to an end. We are concluding this, we're closing this, and each and everyone, whosoever has joined this FDP, whether on Zoom or on Facebook, they are entitled to 4 certificates each. It's a certified TTP and FDP program. Each one of you, you are going to get 4 certificates each within next 1 week. If you have filled in the forms, great. Whosoever hasn't filled in the forms, please get in touch with my team, share your email IDs so that we shall rightly be able to send you your certificates. And yes, now MENTORx is coming up with even bigger things. Whatever you have seen over a span of 2 days, this was enormous. This was huge. But the plans line up ahead. This was a fraction of that. On 26th, 27th, 28th, 3 days, we are coming with a confluence of technologies with Government of Karnataka, India Research Development Body, the North Bangalore Science Forum, and Shishadripuram First Grade College, Newtown, Yelahanka, Bangalore. It's a confluence of technologies, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, humanoid, biotechnology, nanotechnology, virtual reality, IoT, blockchain, cryptocurrency, quantum mechanics, and cybersecurity. Where 18 speakers across the globe, 65 countries joining hand, and thousands of people and touching lives of millions. So stay tuned. All of you are most welcome to join it. 29th of
this month, we are doing 7 vows. Improving your relationships with dance, where a Bollywood celebrity is coming up and sharing his life journey and letting you know how you can improve your relationships, be it with your work, be it with your family or your other half, through dance and through wonderful moments we share together. 31st, we are coming up with a compassionate citizen program, whereby we are letting know the entire world empathy and compassion towards animals, why we need animals in the world, and we're doing it with PETA USA. We are officially tied up with PETA, and it is happening on 31st. And then 5th of March, Teachers Day. We are coming with another education summit with Early Childhood Association in India, and it is going to be broadcasted in the entire globe. So stay tuned, stay connected with us. Each one of you is an integral part of MENTORx, and MENTORx every day is conducting 2 different summits on different topics, and all of you with our arms wide open is invited to that. So on that note, thank you, stay tuned, stay happy, stay safe. Don't trouble anyone, be safe. Thank you, namaste. Thank you,
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Nancy Suneta, and thank you to all entire faculty. And before going, yes, I would quickly love to acknowledge the entire faculty we have. We have Arushi Malik ma'am, Ankush sir, Atul Bhardwaj sir. We have Dr. Yashpal Chavla, the MENTORx Australia honorary mentor. We have Vimi Gura ma'am from the Ministry of Mauritius. Gurpreet Kaur ma'am, KK Sharma sir, Mamta Sharma ma'am, Manika Kocher Khatri ma'am, Parul Mittal ma'am, and our very own Payal, CXO of MENTORx. Do you know that whenever something happens, whenever a movie is run, there are unsung heroes whom you're not able to see. So the Payal is our unsung hero. She's the one who connected the dots, who has woven this web, but she never comes on the forefront. So she's our unsung hero. She has made this possible. So the credit goes to you, Payal. Then we have Poonam Serene ma'am. We have Priya Arora ma'am from Ludhiana. She's a wonderful academician. Rajni Gandhi ma'am. Ramandeep ma'am. She is the chairperson of International Association of School Librarianship. Ranju Mangal ma'am from BBM School, Ludhiana. Rekha Bhandari ma'am, Rima Gogia, PGT Mathematics. Salman Qureshi sir, Sanjay Agarwal sir, Santanu Das sir from Shishadripuram First Grade College, Yelahanka, Newton, Bangalore. We are doing the upcoming summit 26, 27, 28 along with under the able leadership of Santanu Das sir. Supriya Sharma ma'am is with us, Sushma Piyati, JHS, Uma Balan ma'am, Varsha Jain. She's a wonderful educationist, a wonderful mother, as well as an international jewelry designer, hungry for knowledge. See, certain times people say that these FDPs are meant for teachers. She's an international jewelry designer, and she's doing this for her entrepreneurial journey as well as for her own kids. Neeraj Gupta sir, Neha ma'am, Nidhi Kapoor ma'am, Poonam ma'am, and Yogita Sharma ma'am. And whomsoever I'm not able to take the names, folded hand, namaste, blessings, and stay connected with us. Much more is coming, and you guys have no clue how much more is lined up. Each day, 2 summits. We started our journey with the pandemic happened 24th of March, 3rd of August, 100 plus summits. When I'm saying 300 plus summits, imagine the scale, the magnitude I'm talking about. And here, our very own Dr. Nancy Junaid would love to share her thought process.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jindal. You set the momentum really high after our esteemed faculty. And I'll just say a closing note, very brief, a homage to all the participants, all the educators who joined us today. You are the most influential, respected, and powerful tribe on the earth. This is the time when we need you the most. This is the time that we have to show the whole globe what is India and what is Indian education system is. Deep respect to all of you. Let's collaborate. We are always there. MENTORx team is striving for the best and is coming up with not just series of events, but phenomenal growth for all of you. Stay connected, as rightly put by Dr. Jindal. Once you're tuning with us, we definitely inform you all. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank
And
you.
thanks, Dr. Manish, Dr. Nancy, and Rajesh. Bye-bye. And the faculty.
Much more is coming, and you are staying with us forever. Forever means forever.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
And nevertheless, thank you to Vikas Vats ji, HRAI, who introduced Rajiv sir to us. It's definitely, you know, the diamonds who are connecting the diamonds to the MENTORx team.
Indeed, Dr. And I still remember how Mr. Vikas was being the president of HRAI, still being so humble and grounded, always connecting people. And same is true for our another forum, India Mentor, whose founding president, Mr. Gaurav Arora. I came to know Colonel Inderjit through Mr. Gaurav Arora, and me and Colonel Inderjit, we became so dear friends after that. That it never feels, we feel like a family. And same is true for Mr. Rajiv as well. Rajiv sir and me, we were together at Wasme, and now he feels so familiar. You both give me the feeling of my elder brothers. So that is why I'm taking the liberty that we're doing much more, and we will keep lining you up. Just shooting you the text. We won't take your confirmation. We'll just send you the text that on this date this is happening and you're coming.
Sure enough. Anytime. We're always there. It's a pleasure, and long live the MENTORx team.
Salute to all of you. Salute to the tribe of the torch bearers, the game changers. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Have a great day. Bye.
Have a great